at 6:30 p.m. Before we begin, does any committee? Ready? Okay. Do I read the whole thing? Okay. Before we begin, does any committee member wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest? Yes?
Yes.
And I'll just keep Kenneth.
I think we need batteries.
Amanda and Jason both have batteries for garage.
It was a human error.
Okay.
I got it, so just keep that over here.
Oh, wait, he needs it.
No,
I brought-
so, Nathan Christensen, I'm going to declare a potential conflict of interest. My wife, Amy, works for the city, the museum specifically. So if there's any, discussion that might affect that, I would declare an actual, conflict of interest.
And I just work for Cencor. We have a small contract with the city right now, so just declaring a potential conflict, though I don't think so.
All right, got it. Okay. Now we will do roll call.
Committee member Quirk,
Here.
committee member Schwartz,
Here.
committee member Roden. Here. Committee member Boisvert,
Here.
committee member Martin Willis. Here. Committee member Morton. Here. Committee member Ford. Here. Chair Garrison. Here. Committee member Porter. Here. Committee member Sherman.
Here.
Committee member Siler. Here. Committee member Prasavas.
Here.
Committee member Christensen.
Here.
And committee member Carden.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for everyone for being here. Now, the first part of this is public comment. We wish to hear public comment on the proposed budget. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes in length and remember to state your name and your city of residence. I have the order that they were submitted and we will start with those. So first up, I have Vidal Pena.
Hello. I was at the park. My name is Vidal Pena and I've been a resident in Independence for most of my life, which is 53 years almost. And I just wanted to make a couple comments about the importance of the things that we're talking about, funding and possibly not funding parks. I believe that parks are a very necessary part of the community. Obviously, I help in very different aspects at the parks for gatherings and festivals and cultural celebrations. And seeing the looks on people's faces when I speak to them out there, gathered in the thousands, brings me to the knowledge of how important having those, and they're not all from here, they're coming from other places to gather to celebrate in our community. And I think that's very important. As a consumer of parks, it's very new to me as my son's gotten older, and I don't go to parks as often, but I do with my grandnieces. And there's a lot of people that go to parks to use the playgrounds, playground equipments, and walk their dogs and do physical activity stuff. And I think that that's something that we need to keep and figure out a way to keep. Our museums are very important. Our story is in those doors that we have, our story of independence. We have things online that we can look at to give us the story of everything and anything in our lives anymore. But when we talk about what made independence, we can't always discover that online. We have to feel that with our other senses. You know, walking into those doors, you smell history in the museum, and we need to keep that those stories alive. And we can only do that in our museums to see who and how our city was created, the pioneers. In addition to the immigrants and to the migrants that still come to this day to add to these stories of our history. And if we close our doors to that, we can't educate our youth and newcomers to this community of how we were built and how we've been that way for decades. The library itself also is a lifeline for those who don't have the internet. Those who don't want the internet, go there. They don't want it at their house, they go there. They go and experience books. My wife moved here from Salem, and she says that the library is one of the most treasures that she found next to me in Independence. And she loves that place, and I know she's not alone in that. I actually got to do a tour of the library, and I believe it was Patrick that gave us that tour, and there is so much more than books and internet that's available to the public at the library. Stuff you can rent, free, borrow tools, equipment, gardening tool, I mean, there's just so many more. I had no idea that was there. I think everybody should go. If you haven't been here, and sitting in this room, you need to go and check that out. Talk to Patrick, he's right over there. I had a friend say on a post when we were talking about fees and what to do. Let me know when I'm at a minute, if you would, can I? Oh, dang it, can I just say, give me,
Chair? Time ran out,
Okay.
but
can I just say I have one more.
line, yes.
There was, I put a post up about, on Facebook about fees and upcoming possible fees. And a friend posted or commented on that and said that our community spoke and voted against the levy. And that tells us that our community does not want a library or does not want a museum, so we should move on. If you look at how many people vote, that it's not the community. There's a very small percentage of people that turn out to vote for community civil matters. We need to do a better job of educating people on how to register to vote, how to get people voting in this community so that levies like that could pass, so we don't have to go into fees. And that is what upsets people, is that they didn't go out to vote, but yet now they're getting charged a fee. So we need to, teach how not going to do this results in fees. So I really think that we need to educate more. We need to be more transparent about grants that we're looking for as a city, to let them know that we are actively trying to find other ways to fund this. This isn't, we just don't wanna feed you to death. We want to have you help us find more grants, find other ways to make money. But the important thing is to get people to vote. We need to find those people,
Yes,
get them registered and make them vote. So we don't come to this, and I know I went way over my time,
Yeah.
thank you.
thank you, Vidal. All right, the next I have Billy Harold. Harold,
I'm not going to use a microphone because I grew up in Independence. If I use a microphone, I'll blast you off your seats. I'm not going to turn it on. I grew up in Independence and my mother married G. Taylor, who he and his brother had the local drugstore in town. The Taylor's sign still up on our building. My grandfather had the local grocery store. My uncle did the forest shop and on and down and down, down. I started working downtown Independence when I was 10 years old. So I know what it's like. I moved back to Independence when my father died in 1985 and been here since. I helped run the drugstore. I was on the park commission on the 4th of July, and everything. I was on the planning commission. I was on the just about every board, the library board, whatever it is, until I started, my body started giving out on me, and I've had about 12 operations on my knees and shoulders in the last 10 years. But anyway, what I point is, my family is always supported the library, the museums and the parks. And I was disappointed last year when I found the only survey was coming out on the Facebook. My children are to the point now in their 50s and 60s, they don't use Facebook anymore. My grandchildren don't use Facebook anymore. And so I asked for copies of the questionnaire that you had for people, if they were interested in the parks, library, and museum that you have on Facebook. Somebody gave me a couple of dozen. I went out, instead of going door to door, I went and stood in front of the grocery stores. Everybody I asked was, and 3/4 of the people that I asked did not use Facebook. And they said they were just, couldn't believe that they had to make a choice between the parks, the library, and the museum. And they all wanted all of those for themselves, for the seniors. Most seniors now don't bother with the Facebook. Some of them don't even have computers, believe it or not. And they want these services for themselves. They go to the parks, they go to the libraries, they go to the museum. Just because we're 80-some years old doesn't mean we still don't like to read. And that also goes for their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. Those people, 2/3 I bet them are not using Facebook. If you asked around everybody, and I did when I had people fill out the questionnaire. They said, no, they didn't use Facebook anymore. That they didn't quite trust it, or they were worried about it, or they were just too tired at the end of the evening to sit down and go through all of that. Some people thought it was too political, or they didn't know how to do questionnaires. They will read it, but they won't go through and try to fill out everything because they're not that good at it. So I just want you to know, for my parents or my grandparents, for my children, my grandchildren, we want our parks, our library, and our museum. They all are important for this community. And I think if you went door to door and asked people, like I did many times with other things that we used to ask in the past. I went around and got, I think it was 600 people door to door when they were going to close the streets downtown. It was like, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, they were gonna close the streets because the railroad didn't want to have to fix the railroad up and down Main Street. So I went door to door and got people who said, no, we don't want our streets closed for the railroad. And so I think if you ask people door to door or stand in front of it, you'll find out the majority of people need it. I don't care if they have to pay $20 extra or if they have to pay $40 extra. It's important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next is Rebecca Berry.
My name is Rebecca Berry, and I'm a homeowner here in Independence. I understand this is a difficult budget year, and however, closing or cutting any more hours at our library would be short-sighted and in the long run harmful to our community. Our library is not just a stockpile of books, but a haven for children seeking a place of refuge. Seniors who enjoy the daily newspaper in the afternoon. At last, the parents who come in with their young children find several books to be checked out and read to them after hours. I cannot tell you how many newcomers have spoken to me who said the reason that they moved to Indy because of the library. How warm the staff were, how it made this a community. In closing, I ask that you see fit fund our library. Keep the doors open and continue to serve the people who rely on the library the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next is Forrest Johnson.
Hello all, Forrest Johnson, I'm a homeowner in town, and I work with youth at the Community Services Consortium. I have kids in the school district. I have dogs in the neighborhood, and we use the parks, we use the library. I was asked to do an exhibit at the museum several years ago for the Ospreys. I'm working with my students at the Community Services Consortium right now to do an exhibit in the museums in the coming months. These are all super important to me and my family. We were crushed when the vote didn't pass, and really disappointed to see the turnout, like was said earlier. But $20 is like, I mean, I know that we've got jobs and privilege and things, but $20 is not a big deal when it when compared, $20 a month sucks, but compared to losing our libraries, losing any kind of access to parks, or losing the museum, and with the museum, like access to history. My son goes to coding class every week at the library. It's really important that all three of these stay open. And close friend of mine was one of the people he talks to at the grocery store. She lives in Monmouth, but she was like, how can anybody make that choice between any of those? So just, yeah, please pass the funding. Great. We'll pay for it.
We appreciate that comment. Thank you. Okay, so now we will move on to the budget presentation. Is there anybody else that would like to make comment? Are there any online? No. Nobody?
So first, I'm going to start out with bringing back some information from last week's meeting that was requested. We have some information that was provided by Public Works Director Gerald Fisher regarding the cost of continuing the leaf pickup service. So this is his statement. During the current fiscal year, the disposal, testing fees, and repairs to equipment cost $34,866.99. The equipment currently used is the backhoe and street sweeper, which are not designed for a leaf pickup program. The cost to replace the backhoe, which is close to being dead by this use, is estimated at approximately $180,000, and the cost to replace the sweeper is estimated at $290,000. The number of staff using our current equipment is no less than 3 full-time equivalent employees to run the dump truck, backhoe, and sweeper. He also did research to purchase the proper equipment. The purchase price to get new equipment to properly do leaf pickup without using the backhoe or sweeper will cost approximately $200,000 to $250,000. Additionally, it only requires 1 full-time equivalent position to operate. Our operations manager is looking at the attached back unit, which has a driver-controlled articulating arm. After purchasing the equipment, the annual cost for equipment repairs is estimated at $10,000 to $20,000 annually. His first year estimate, worst case scenario, is a little over $300,000. Second year estimate, $55,000 plus $33,600 for equipment replacement in 10 years at 3% increase per year. One unknown factor to consider is disposal costs after Coffin Butte closes. We anticipate costs will significantly increase because there are no other landfills within reasonable distance from Independence. He ran the numbers based on the newest costs, and the first year increase would be about a 42.4% increase, which would then be reduced to a 12.3% increase the subsequent year. He broke down the costs for single-family households and incorporated inflation into the numbers. Current year, that would be $13.94 a month. For the next budget year, $20.33 a month for a single-family home. And that includes inflation. The next budget year, $16.52 a month. That assumes 3% inflation. So these numbers do not include impacts of tariffs or other actions that could change costs as we progress with materials, services, equipment.
We get, do we get that in an email? We get that email because it was read into the record, or can it be posted so we can see that? Because that was a lot of numbers.
Yeah. Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. I was curious, do we have a comparison cost though for how much it costs to repair the sewer lines after the leaves get in there? Because that was really what I was looking for last week, is the comparison cost and repair costs for managing this.
We don't have repair costs for sewer lines. I believe Director.
Storm lines, sorry.
Yeah, our storm line, sorry. I believe Director Fisher addressed that last week, but I cannot recall the explanation. Mm-mm. Couple questions. So it sounds like the backhoe is kind of on its last legs. Do we use that for anything else? Does that need to be replaced regardless? Yes, it does. That's used frequently for all of the jobs they do. And
It is, it's used for quite a number of things. The problem that we're having is that we have reduced its life expectancy significantly by using it for something it's not meant to be used for.
And then just in case anyone's new to the conversation that's listening, so this was regarding using the backhoe for the leaf collection program, which the city's considering to not have that anymore because it's extremely expensive, right?
What started this conversation is, one, it is expensive. It takes 3 of our staff during leaf pickup. But the impetus for this is the transportation bill. We are going to get, according to what everyone is saying, if that does not pass, there will be a reduction of approximately 20% to the cities. And we'd been using some of that funding, much of that funding, for services like that. We no longer have that funding, so we have to cut things that are nice to haves, but not requirements. And that is definitely a nice to have. We just can't fund it without that transportation money.
That does make sense. And then one thought I had too last week when Gerald was explaining it, he was talking about how, people can order extra bins through Brands and Brands can, do that, but also Brands is a for-profit service. Is there any opportunity for the city, maybe not this fiscal year, but in future, to be able to offer that service at a cost? Is there any way that could pay for itself at some point in time?
The service of the leaf pickup, we would have to do an assessment because, again, remember, it takes 3 staff people. And we run a pretty lean team, so we would have to do an assessment on how many staff we'd have to add, what the equipment would have to be, and then determine if it could be something we do. I'd also have to take a look at our franchise fee agreement because I am uncertain, but in the back of my head, there's a little niggling about we can't compete with our franchisee, so that could be an issue too. I don't know that, it's just ringing in the back of my head.
Thank you.
Have we looked at, I think in a similar vein, maybe partnering with like Mar Brothers or somebody that we could do, I know they will accept like leaf waste and vegetation at their property, and I don't know if maybe we could partner with them and have a voucher system. I think Vancouver does something similar to that where people have like certain weekends that they can bring in like truckloads of leaves or something. They still have to get the leaves there, but then they have a voucher for a much reduced cost of being able to dispose of them. But I'm wondering if there isn't somebody that could use that material and then they compost it and turn it into product for them. If that's something that we might be able to look into.
Council policy.
I will go to Maryland.
My question is of similar ilk. I know we use our yard debris container from Brandt's as much as we can, but I have 30 trees on my yard and it fills it up quickly. Has anybody ever checked with Brandt's to see if we can do a part-time, have a second container come that they will pick up?
I think you can just call Brandt's counselor. I'll try them now. Just give them a call and ask them.
I will do that. I just wondered if that has been investigated as a potential alternative.
I do believe, my understanding is that there are options similar to that. And I would recommend that if this service can't provide this service, call the other service providers and absolutely ask about that.
I was thinking that maybe we could also work with our neighboring city, Monmouth, who does leaf pickup too, and maybe we could coordinate with them some sort of joint operation to pick up leaves, because I think we only pick up leaves 5 to 6 days during the season. So it might be something that might be in our best interest to work together to do that if possible. But that, I mean, that's something we could look at after tonight's meeting. I think it's also important to keep in mind that this is a service that is probably not equally used throughout the city. So while, I mean, I know some of my neighbors use it, some people have lots of trees, some people have none, so I think we should be cognizant as we think through who this maybe applies to, and there are some people that frankly don't make use of that service, and I think that's just something we should keep in mind as we're thinking through who it impacts and the cost of providing that. Sean, we're Tree USA for our 18th year. It's a lot. Every time I pass by the sign, I shed a single tear because I'm so proud that we're a Tree USA city. So, you know, anything we can do to promote tree growth in our community and pick up the leaves, I think it's something that we should research. I mean, it's something I'm proud that we're a city of trees, so. Are there any other comments about this right now at this moment in time? No, okay. So I think we can move on to more of the budget presentation.
Yes. So I'm going to begin tonight with the presentation of revenue, which is on page 67 in your budget book. This is the general fund revenue. So this year for property taxes, we are estimating $2.835 million for the current year taxes and $45,000 for prior year. 18,000 payment in lieu, and our local marijuana tax, we are budgeted for $60,000 in revenue. That one continues to increase, which is a good thing. The franchise fee section, those are payments made by utility companies to local governments for the right to use the public rights of way to deliver their service. So when they are seeing rate increases, we see increased franchise fee revenue from that. So we are seeing increases pretty much across the board this year. We are budgeting for $525,000 in electricity franchise, $120,000 natural gas, $125,000 solid waste. Telephone holding relatively steady, but declining. We are budgeted for $30,000. Cable franchise, again, with streaming that continues to go down. We are budgeted for $15,000 this year. Data franchise, which is going to be internet, we are budgeted for $140,000. Although we will be watching, we are anticipating an increase this year due to the new line at the school coming on. We just don't know what that will be until we see it coming in. For intergovernmental revenues, these are revenues that are shared revenues from the state of Oregon. Cities generally receive our funds in Oregon from property taxes, franchise fees, transient lodging tax, fees for services, and our state shared revenues. So state liquor revenues this year, we are budgeted for $170,000. The distribution estimates are down slightly, 1.43% per capita from $14.68 in the current fiscal year down to $14.47 in fiscal year 26-27. State cigarette revenues continue to decline. It's projected to continue trending downward as it has for more than 10 years as consumer smoking decreases. Distribution estimates are down 3.77% per capita from 0.53 cents in the current fiscal year to 0.51 next year. State marijuana revenues. Now the state imposes a 17% tax on recreational marijuana products. The shared revenue distribution is to eligible cities on a per capita basis, and 25% of that is distributed based on the number of licensed recreational and medical premises in the city. The distribution estimates are holding steady this year. They were down only slightly from $1.51 per capita in the current year to 151 or to 150 in the upcoming year, although they do anticipate marijuana revenues to continue to trend upwards. Charges for services, we have license permits and fees, liquor licenses, business licenses, charges for services and lien search. Most of that is similar to the previous year. The one large increase we see is business licensing. Now, council this year passed an increase. We're implementing a flat fee. We're eliminating the redundancy of a business registration and a business license. And we're budgeting only for business licenses at the flat rate of $100 per. We are unsure of the amount of compliance we're going to see this first year, so we only budgeted for an estimated 250 to come on, and we'll see how that goes as we reach out to businesses in the community and get them in compliance and licensed. Moving down, miscellaneous revenues, not a whole lot going on there. We have our interest income, miscellaneous fees and refunds that we received throughout the year. We did continue to budget. We carried over the 250,000 proceeds from sale of capital assets because that did not happen this year. That is the sale of the sports park we are anticipating. So we have rebudgeted for it in the upcoming fiscal year. Transfers. Otherwise, transfers in those lines, sewer fund, water fund, storm fund, drain that you see, those are the franchise fees that our city's utilities pay into the general fund for doing business in the city, just like all other utilities. Are there any questions at this point?
This will make your next. Two questions. The first of all is about business licenses and business licensing. Have the businesses been advised of this, and are we required to give a certain amount of lead-in time before they're charged?
We have not been, to my knowledge, for last year or long time. We have not been currently billing. Some businesses do reach out on their own and pay that every year. All of those who have contacted us, we have warned them, advised them that the fee is increasing, that there was a new fee passed, and we will be doing our due diligence to reach out to businesses when we're ready to implement, sending out letters notifying them ahead of time.
Good, because so far this is, through this document, is the first I've ever heard of a licensing fee. And up till now, from what I understand, we had a $10 a year business registration fee.
We had, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I don't want to misspeak. We had a, do you remember those 25 or was it 25? And then 15. We had 25 and 15 were the two fees previously.
My other quick question is the cash donations undesignated. Is that referring to the send some money and pay for what you love or support what you love?
Yes, it is.
And is that being discontinued?
It's not being discontinued. That we just typically don't budget for it because we don't plan to receive that. Yeah, if we receive it, of course it gets posted there as a revenue line item, but we can't anticipate what people are going to donate.
Okay, that's it for me. Send it over to Evan and then Dana.
Thank you. Two questions. One, franchise fees. Are franchise fees tied to like the services? So like you can only use that money to maintain like the lines, the roads, or is that money that we can allocate to places? Is it not free money, movable, fungible money?
It is unrestricted
Unrestricted.
and it goes directly into the general fund.
Thank you. And then tobacco products, tobacco fee or cigarette fee, that's all tobacco or just cigarettes?
No.
Because the legislature just created a new tobacco tax.
Yes, so I do have some history on that in case anyone had questions. So back, no, and I can't recite it all, so I made sure I brought it. Back in November of 2020, voters passed Measure 108, which increased cigarette taxes by $2 per pack effective January 1st, 2021.
Yeah. And Zen, there's Zen.
Yes. It created a cap on cigar tax, lifted it from 50 cents to $1, a tax on vape products at 65% of retail price, and preempted cities from taxing vape products. Yes, so after the increase, cigarette taxes are at $3.33 per pack, and city's share of that revenue is a meager 0.6% of that tax, or about 2 cents per pack. Additionally, it's also important to note, while cities receive a share of tax revenue for cigarettes, no shared revenue is distributed for taxes on other tobacco products, including cigars, snuff, chewing tobacco, pipe tobacco, and now vape.
So the state just.
Yes,
Correct,
yes.
correct.
Measure 108 was expected to decrease revenues to cities, and while this reduction could be explained by long-standing trends, it's also explained by consumers switching to vape products and us not receiving any of that revenue.
Thank you. In regards to the business licenses, so the state of Oregon provides a database, it provides different services regarding the business fees at $100. City of Independence is now charging an equal fee. Is there any services being provided with that funding towards businesses in the city?
So this business license is not a fee for a service that is provided, is essentially the cost of doing business within our city limits. And this is something that was voted on and approved by council.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, just. Can we have said that? And move your phones off of your names, please.
For the voluntary cash donations, I'm curious if there's going to be more advertising on that, because I know it's on the River City Briefs, I know it's on the water bill, but like, how many people read through that, right? You know, if there's somebody.
We're all sitting here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think $120 of that came from me, but but I think that, you know, I do think that anybody that voted in favor of the levy, if they knew that that was an option, I think that a lot of people would really be interested in that. You know, I put my money where my mouth went when I came up with that suggestion last year, but I really think that people don't know about it. And I do think that that's a missed opportunity there. And, you know, not that we're gonna get like hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything, but might as well get what we can, right? Until we have other options.
We'll take that as a suggestion. Yeah. I'll speak into this one. So you do have the sports park listed for as the profit, but what about like the other properties that we have for sale? Are those listed anywhere? No, those are not budgeted at this time. Chair, it would be a windfall if we could get more than one sold. And so we are budgeting very conservatively. I can say we've had interest, but no offers. And so we've only noted the one that has an offer. All right. That is the conclusion of revenue. So before we move into presentations of the departments of general fund, I was going to touch on the fees that are in the budget for the general fund, tailing from revenue before we move forward. So this year, the council formed an ad hoc committee to review community services and parks, what we can do, is it sustainable? What can we do to keep these services? Is it possible? And the committee met quite a few times. Early this year, early 2026, leading into budget, and brought a recommendation to council to bring that to the budget committee. So staff was directed to implement the fees into the budget to see what that would look like to support our services. What was recommended was the cost of service fee scenario. That was calculated based on cost of running each individual department. We incorporated the limit of the 5% growth in costs that we are trying to hold as our limit across funds whenever possible, and budgeting for a modest 1% growth in our community. So with that, what we calculated was $11.50. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just informational at this point. So you will see the fee revenue for community services in the Community Services Department Fund 50, and the Parks fee revenues in Parks Fund Department 53. So we will see that as we have our presentations. The community services fee is budgeted for $11.50, excuse me, per household. And that would generate $548,300 in revenue to support that department. The parks fee was calculated the same way, the cost of running that department for a year with the 1% growth in the accounts and the restricted to 5% increase in cost. What we calculated was $8.15 per household. So that comes to a total of $19.65 with both fees. Additionally, this year we are lowering our public safety fee as scheduled. So when that was implemented January of 2021, when that went into effect, it was $21 per household. That since went down to $17 per household this current year. And as of July 1st, it is scheduled to go down to $10 per household. So what we're looking at as of July 1, if we implement these fees, is a total fee to our community of $29.65 per household.
An actual increase of.
An actual increase with the reduction in public safety fee is only $12.
Well,
Well, $12.65.
yeah. She just rounded.
Yeah.
No
From
rounding.
there's no rounding. From the $17 going to $29.65.
Did we all understand? Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right, we can start our general fund presentations. We're gonna start with administration.
Okay, for the first time I'm taking administration, you guys. Usually the budget officer does that, but Amanda is new and we've saddled her with so much that you are stuck with me. Aren't you excited?
Pressure up.
I know, right? Okay, administration. So we,
29.
I apologize, council, committee member, page 25 is what I have. Is where the narrative starts. Yeah. We all on the same page, literally? Perfect. Okay, so the general fund includes me, Sean, Myra, Emmanuel, and we do a number of things. Some of the most important things that we do, we align council priorities with operations, we maintain fiscal stewardship, we ensure transparent and effective governance. Now, over the past year, we've strengthened this work, including a significant reduction in interfund loans, which was a direction from our council. We have transformed the budget, and this has been a multi-year process. Mind you, I came in, council said, we want a readable, intuitively understandable budget. And we have been getting better and better every year. So we've transformed the budget into a clearer, more transparent document for the council and the community. We've continued expansion of our communications and public engagement, and we've become the trusted source for accurate information. And we've at the same time maintained a very high level of service, retained a strong staff by building a culture focused on trust, teamwork, and service to our community, even through the fiscal challenges. Oftentimes, when you see a city or an organization with fiscal challenges, you will see a departure of staff. And we've not really seen that. We've had retirements, but the staff are here serving the community. And that is a testament to the culture that we've created. We've also continued to advance major initiatives, including securing over $7 million in low-interest financing for our water treatment plant. Through advocacy efforts, our water treatment plant is also on Congresswoman Salinas' funding list for $5 million in federal funding. And through another grant, we were able to have a long-term financial analysis program designed and implemented for us so we can strengthen our long-term financial planning. And I know Amanda is extremely excited about that program. So we'll be utilizing that. That will help in the budgeting process, the strategic planning, and the financial planning. Now, as we look ahead, the work of the city is not just increasing, it's becoming more complex. You hear me say that all the time at a council meeting. For any of the committee members that aren't at council meetings, you hear me say that all the time. And that includes infrastructure funding, grant compliance, policy development, governance support. A key responsibility of administration is ensuring that our structure, our operations align with the work that needs to be done. So what you're going to see in this budget, one of the most important recommendations in this budget reflects that responsibility, and it's shifting to an in-house council model from an external contract council model. You'll also see other smaller changes, and if you want to look at them on the page, it's page 29. These are smaller, so I'll give you a couple of minutes or seconds to get to the page. Line item 62202, small tools and equipment, is increased by $2,000 because Myra has a janky laptop. It's for your laptop, right? Yeah, she has a janky laptop. These Myra's words. And it doesn't work. And so we're gonna have to replace it. Line item 63190, professional services. This increase to include funding for our grants manager. What we did is we just adjusted where it was to make it more clear which departments it's coming from. So our grants manager is there. And this year we need to do council goal setting. And that means it's about $20,000 to get a consultant on board and get that done. So that is added into that line. You will see that increase. Line 63220 is dues and memberships. Primarily software subscriptions. You have complaints, talk to Jason. That's not me. He's coming up. Yeah. Line 66130, mayor and council. Now that was increased mainly due to the expense of having city provided cell phones and service for our council. And that was in response to a very large public records request that was submitted for mayor and council texts this fiscal year. It is best practices to have city phones. That way our staff can access those city phones immediately rather than having to take the council and mayor's personal phones and get all of the texts. So although it was in response to a large public records request, it's moving towards best practices, which we should have done. That way you have to pay for it now. Now, as we look ahead to fiscal year 26-27, we're going to continue to focus on fiscal sustainability, communications and transparency, infrastructure funding and delivery, legislative engagement. If an in-house council shift is approved, we'll also be able to focus on organizational development and succession, council goal setting and council training. The council has really been getting short shift. Normally the city manager would engage with the council more. You would do more training. When a new councilor came on, we would actually have a training package. Right now, Councilor Boisvert got me for an hour and he's doing great. That's not a testament to me. That's a testament to the councilor. We should have a package and we should have training and we don't. So the council has really been getting short shift because I've been doing in-house legal. That was not what I was hired for, but it was a need that I had to fill. We'll also be working on long-term projects if we do shift to the in-house council to charter and ordinance cleanup. Our charter is ancient, it is archaic, it is confusing. It has us doing things like it's a no if you're not there. Well, maybe, right? Our ordinances, one of the reasons that the fees have not gone into place is that we have an ordinance that says you can do this, and if you do, you look at this ordinance, well, that ordinance doesn't exist anymore. So we can't, can we do this? So we need to have in-house counsel to tell us how to do that, to look at the ordinances, to clean them up, to make sure our governance is working the way it needs to work. We're also going to assess looking at a biennial budget. For those counselors who were there last night, you talked about scalable SDCs, right? And Steve told you at that time, it's gonna take a lot of work. The municipal code and the development code are gonna have to be changed. We can't afford to send that out, in-house counsel. So those are things that we're gonna be looking towards, but will we or won't we, depends on that determination. So I've kind of talked about in-house counsel. Let's talk about it a little bit more. I know this is the big elephant in the room. We relied on outside counsel for some time, and that model worked when our legal needs were occasional and specialized. What we're seeing now is that legal work is daily, it is operational, and it is time sensitive. Under the current model, staff either has to wait for outside counsel to access them, or they have to wait for me to clear up time to look at whatever it is they need looked at, or answer whatever question needs to be answered, which creates delays, bottlenecks, and inconsistent outcomes. And I will tell you honestly, my desk is the black hole for contracts, and Sean can tell you that, because I don't have time. I am doing 2 jobs, right? So the reality is I can't effectively do both. And at the same time that we have all of this going on, we have critical long-term legal projects that I kind of talked about. They need to be, our codes need to be reviewed and updated. These are projects that have been delayed. The can has been kicked because they're too costly to outsource to our outside counsel, but we don't have internal capacity to complete them. They're essential to governance, to effective and efficient governance. We are already spending the cost of an in-house attorney. When you take a look at what we spend for our outside counsel and my time, but we don't have, that cost is not building an internal capacity. All it's doing is taking me away from the job I should be doing. So we need to build the internal capacity. It's an interesting thing because we're not really adding a position, we're shifting a model. And that model we already have working. If you look at Public Works, now Public Works, we have our Public Works director. He's an engineer. He was hired to be a Public Works director. Yes, he can do engineering, but he doesn't have the time to be the Public Works director and an engineer. What do? We hired an in-house city engineer, and we still retain our consulting engineers for specialized project work. Now, it's pretty much the exact same situation, right? I'm the city manager. I was hired to be the city manager, not the city attorney. But I've been trying to perform both roles, hence the black hole that is my desk. Now, that is almost exactly the same scenario. One core difference. Public Works model, the Public Works director has 4 direct reports and 15 people in his department. I have 10 direct reports and 50 people in my department. Think on that for just a second. So along with that concept, I also want to tell you what a city manager should be doing. Organizational leadership, budget and fiscal oversight, council support, labor relations, community engagement, strategic planning, emergency response, compliance oversight, infrastructure and funding, strategy, staff recruitment and retention, regional and legislative advocacy, and more. And I have been trying to do that. And legal. So you see the black hole, right? You see what my staff has been struggling with. When my finance director needed information on what to do with an IRS thing, She didn't call outside counsel. You know why? It's expensive. She called the IRS. Well, then she got stuck on hold forever. Those are costs that aren't in our numbers because it's costing her time. And we don't pay her nearly as well as we should, but we still pay her. And that's a cost to our community. These are costs that we're seeing, but they are not shown on the numbers. And I just want you to keep that in your mind. So with that said, and I know I focused on that because it's the elephant in the room. So let me close with, we've built a strong, disciplined organization that's delivering results, even under these fiscal constraints. But our work has changed and our structure needs to change to reflect that. The in-house attorney is not an expansion, it's a model shift to support the level of complexity of work we're already handling. We are already paying for these legal services. The question is whether we continue with a model that creates delays and limits what we can accomplish, or we move to one that provides responsiveness, consistency, and capacity that the organization needs. Now, I really want to make clear here, our outside counsel are good. They are very good. This is not a quality issue. This is a quantity issue. It's about making sure the city can operate effectively, not just today, but going forward. And I'm happy to answer questions. Who's got the?
Jessica has it.
Sorry about that. City Manager West, I just want to confirm a couple things on this page. Under the salary and wages, that is reflective of the time that you spend doing this kind of work. This is not reflective of the 4 salaries of the people that you mentioned. So we're talking about $23,000, not 51100.
Yes, so that is, as you know, an allocation, so we're allocated across funds. And that 83,000 is an allocation of all salary and wages. So when I talked about Sean, Emmanuel, me, Myra, that is a reflection of all of our wages.
Okay, and I didn't hear what you said about the mayor and council line 66130. That was for city phones?
Yes, we had to move to city phones because of a large public records request.
Right. And I want to say something about the in-house counsel. I've talked to several city councilor friends that I have, and one thing that I hadn't thought of when I first looked at this was in-house counsel being in the room with us in a meeting will serve to keep us in our lane, but also protect us from overstepping and possibly violating law. So I think we need to think of that benefit as well.
And that is a dual role, and I should have mentioned that, Counselor, thank you. That is a dual role I have been trying to play, and it is nearly impossible to do. Because I need to focus on the operational things. The notes that I take are operational. The council's directing us to do this. I need to monitor that. While at the same time, I'm trying to listen and make sure that y'all don't go astray and end up in, council jail.
And Shannon, take yours over, please. Yeah. Can you hand the microphone over? Thank you.
I appreciate your transparency with this. I think we've asked in the past if you've acted as city attorney, and I thought the answer was no. I think we need a clear separation of roles for you to not be our city attorney and city manager at the same time. I think that's a very dangerous position for us to be in. At the same time, we're trying to express to our community how tight our budget is and how we're cut to the bare bone, and then we add more to it. I just am very cautious about this, and I'm very concerned about bringing someone in when we already have someone acting as an attorney, how the two minds are gonna meld in that situation.
As I noted, we're not adding. What we're doing is we're shifting a model. We're already paying for the services. We're just not getting the full services. So we're shifting a model. We already have attorneys. I'm acting as in-house counsel, which is different than the attorney. In-house counsel does issue spotting, reviews the contracts, determines if that needs to go on to the attorneys. And the in-house counsel can also handle the attorney part. So they'll be taking that as well. So we're not really adding, Counselor, and I want to be clear, it's a shifting of the model to follow what we're doing in public works.
All right, thank you. It took me a minute to formulate my questions regarding the fee. I know you guys probably thought you got off free there. I had a few questions for this budget session over the course of the weeks, and I just kind of want to get them all out now. First off, as far as the $90,000 budgeted for the legal fees this year, is that going to be the cost of hiring an attorney?
You're only looking at one fund.
Okay,
So we're looking at, I believe this last fiscal year, we were looking at about $140,000 just to outside counsel.
okay,
We're looking at with what my salary is and the council around $200,000 in costs per year.
okay. And, you know, of course, I am for hiring an attorney. I think it's a great idea, but I just want to get clear on the costs. So there's some things I wanted to read into the record too. Just to be clear, rent in Independence is currently 21% above average for the state. Housing costs are 13% above average according to costoflivingdata.com. Inflation between 2020 and 2026, according to BLS.gov, has risen 25 to 30% in the city of Independence, or in the region, I should say, because that's how they break it down. Wage growth during the same time has only risen 18 to 25%, which leads to a net negative 6% available household income for residents of our city. Since we're already facing higher than average, nearly 25% higher than average costs for renters, and the net growth being negative, it seems that citizens are losing their ability to pay for things like fees and increased costs at possibly a faster rate than the city is for their ability to cover them. Are these things that the council has considered in terms of coming up with these fees and planning for them?
So I would not be the one to answer that. I think the chair of the ad hoc committee, if she's willing, would be the appropriate person to answer that. If you're comfortable doing so, I will send this down if so. If you're not comfortable, I'm not gonna throw you under the bus.
Well, I'm not clear what the question is. I mean, did you?
Just to be clear, the question is, has the city considered these increased costs to citizens in regards to the fee?
In what respect? Recognizing that it is an increased cost and recognizing to the extent that the city has control over inflation. I guess I'm unclear what you're asking here. I think when we considered the impact to the community of closing these services, we consider the fact of what are our community members going to do? Cost, gasoline cost, fares cost right now that we all feel. $5. Drive to Salem. That's $20 right there. We did talk about the impact that it would have on families. We also talked about the trade-off of closing those services. What are they going to do economically? When you can stay in the community, get on the trolley, go to a library, whether it's Monmouth or Independence, recognizing that our library is not open on the weekends. So we did at length talk about the economic trade-offs for families with these services, without these services. We talked about if there was a way to tier these fees, whether it be tiered through the business model, so commercial, industrial, Main Street businesses, I'm going to call them, recognizing that that would create increased pressure on those businesses, which would have a detrimental effect on other aspects of economic growth in this community. That is also part of the three-legged stool that would hopefully be a part of the long-term solution. So we did talk at length about the different impacts of the fees, the fee structure, what it would mean for families, recognizing that there are a number of factors, inflation being one, that are just beyond our control. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Thank you. Yeah, these are mostly just questions that I believe the community would want to know the answer to. So I'm just trying to get clarification. The final question I believe I have is, I looked, there it is. So between November of 2024 and October of 2025, gas prices increased by 14%. Between January 25 and January 2026, gas prices actually decreased by 11 cents. You'd mentioned previously that fuel prices had doubled for the city. I'm curious why.
I don't think I mentioned fuel.
The last.
Yeah, last week or the week before, you'd mentioned that fuel prices had doubled for the city,
Must have been Gerald.
maybe?
Yeah, he was present, secret there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have any information on that or?
I assume. I'll try and yell.
It might be undue because they're doing more projects as well, some larger scale projects, so the scale of the work that they're doing with the machinery they're doing has increased it and due with the price increase, those two things combined.
I mean, the other,
No,
Yeah,
we have a long list.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Easy.
Kate, Jessica, Alex, Shannon, Marilyn,
We're not
and then
thinking
you.
about- He sells $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
Miranda, she's here.
Kate is next and then Jessica.
My next.
No,
Shannon.
Kate, Jessica, Alex, Shannon, Marilyn. I got you on the list, in those, when I saw. As I saw, I put you on the list.
All right, here we go. So I know that this is a hot ticket item, because as previous comments indicated, right, we're facing significant cuts, and here we are proposing to add a position, so I definitely wanted to look into this pretty carefully. But I do think it's really important to look at the full picture. And it's easy to look, I think, at just the line item and the cost and do a number calculation. But looking at what the risk is, what the staff capacity, and what the cost of things not getting done. And that's what I started to really worry about as I went through the list of questions that I had. And so I want to look at it from that full picture. And first off, I do think it's really important to note that separation of duties between the city manager and the attorney would be really important, because I do think it puts our city manager in a position of trying to balance both of those roles at times when it's not a tenable situation to be in. I do also worry about the things that aren't getting done, contracts that maybe aren't getting reviewed, letters that aren't getting reviewed, whatever it is, because we know that that outside counsel is very expensive, and so staff is taking on and trying to do more things internally, or hoping that we can skirt by and that they're not getting done. And I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add about that in terms of that increased risk and maybe some situations around that we might be facing. And then I think the kind of one of the final things that I want to add on is I do think it would be helpful if we had that extra capacity attending meetings. I think there have been times when we have wished that we could have our attorney here, and for scheduling reasons or other reasons that they haven't been able to make that. So I do think that this is important. I think we recognize that, yes, we're adding, but looking at that full cost of the services that we're already providing and looking at the projects that we have coming up, it does seem like we are getting more complicated and that this would be beneficial.
Are there, you talk about, oh, sorry.
City Manager West, are there anything that we can add about the inefficiencies of people or risks that we're taking on by things not getting reviewed?
Well, there's so much. I want you to think about the multi-million-dollar projects that we do, right? So our procurement contracts, our procurement policies, our contract issues that can create disputes or financial exposure, personnel issues, our recruitment issues. Our HR director and I were talking today that, you know, one of the most litigious areas, HR. And if we don't have someone to look at those things, then you try and go forward doing the best that you can, and you end up in a lawsuit. We have 2 unions. Public records. Oh boy, howdy. Myra could talk about public records. I think you've got 6 public records requests open right now. 5 public records requests open right now. She's on timelines. There are pages and pages and pages and more pages of statutes. We've had 2 grievances that our attorney has had to take. Because it is really, really complex. So all of these things can lead to complaints, penalties, grant compliance. Boy, howdy, federal contracts, people, federal contracts, right? We do the best we can to save money. We do the best we can, but we don't have the capacity in-house. And it's expensive to send it outhouse.
Jessica.
City Manager West, forgive me if I missed this, but I know that the fees are allocated across all the departments. Can we just get an idea of what is the total cost that we are paying for the council services contract versus the proposed adding a new in-house position?
Hold on, I had the finance director handle that. So it's, if you look at page 108, you'll see the allocations. And if you look at page 107, you will see number 23 is where the attorney is going to be. Yeah. And I apologize, I should have made that note. Thank you for asking. So 107, line 23 shows you what the attorney salary is.
I think the question is basically, is it net neutral? Or like, what's the
Yeah,
delta
right.
versus in-house?
That's what we're paying for.
That's my
contract.
concern.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, that is what I'm
That's
asking.
what I was like,
Equal to what we're paying.
if you can, I know it's a different amount of hours.
Yeah, so let me explain how we did this. I'm going to say yes, maybe kind of. What we did is I have never really noted how many hours I spent on in-house counsel, but my cost needs to be figured into that, okay? So, we just kind of picked a random percentage. It's probably a little on the low side. When we took mine and we added it to what we're paying to outside counsel, and last year that was 140,000 approximately. We are on track for 110 this year, and that is barring any problems, right? If we get problems, that sucker's gonna go away. And that's the other thing to consider too, and I forgot to mention that, so thank you for the question. We don't have control. If we get something bad that happens, that can go way high. In-house counsel, we know we're gonna pay them that amount every single month. So 140,000 in external legal fees. You add in mine, you're somewhere around 200,000. It's going to be about the same, a little under for the attorney, depending on where we hire them in. We will still have some external counsel costs, right? Because an attorney can't do everything. I don't know how many of you spend any time with us, but we do as much as we can. But I was a litigator and I handled a lot of contract review and business. So I have an expertise. I'm not, and I've told everybody this, I am not a land use attorney. So don't put me in planning and ask me land use questions, because I'm gonna go, speed dial attorney, right? We will look for an attorney who has land use experience, because that's what we really need. So, we will still potentially have to have some external. It'll be a lot less. We think it's gonna be breaking even. So kind of, sort of, maybe. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the idea of the in-house attorney, that totally makes sense to me. I was just trying to get a sense for, how much does that actually affect our numbers? But accounting for the value of your time and what you've been doing, it seems like the amount is going to be about the same-ish, but we're also going to have a lot more capacity from this person to be able to do all of these things that have been backlogged. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
And the value of that is absolutely incredible. For 4 years, I have been trying to get ordinances and charter and all of these long-term projects going. We just don't have the capacity in-house. We can't afford to do it.
And I just also wanted to comment on Counselor Sharman's question. I've been on this committee 8 years. I don't think anybody sitting in this room takes any of this lightly. I think all of the decisions that we make, every vote that we make, we are all always taking into consideration the direct impact that that's gonna have on the people that live in this community.
You send that over to Alex, please.
I'm good. That was my.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay, Shannon.
See, save the mic, please.
I also just want to point out to Committee Member Sharman, council did not recommend a fee. The mayor's task force, which was made up of residents only, recommended a fee, and they followed that recommendation to bring it to the budget committee to work out and see if there's value here or not, and then it will go to council for a decision along with the rest of the budget.
Yeah.
I want to go back to in-house counsel. As the unfortunately longest serving counselor on this body, I have a lot of history to share. I have worked with an in-house attorney before. And he was there for every council meeting and often every committee meeting that was necessary. I have seen the efficiency that is available to the council and to the staff when there's somebody right there in the moment to answer the questions and give direction. I have also seen at least a half a dozen incidences where that attorney being in place protected council members. And it is very, you're brought up short when the attorney raises his finger and says, no, we're not gonna go there. And I am pleased to recall that as a very positive experience. And I think that will bring some efficiency to our council in the future, let alone your extra hours.
It's Evans's. And then,
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna pontificate for a second. It's gonna lead to a question. So yeah, last week I pontificated a bit, much to the chagrin of my colleague Alex, around opportunity costs. This is one of those opportunity costs. We have two paths here that we could choose, and it's all about what kind of community we want to live in, right? So my question for City Manager West, I'm interested in public records requests. I'm interested in how much time, because a little more pontification, I guess. So you can't charge for all the time that a public records request brings in, because you have to figure out who's doing it, what does it entail, what is it, who's it targeting, like what specific time, and all that. You can't actually charge the user, right? It's only the time to pull said records, correct?
You are correct, and I'm going to actually get up and I'm gonna walk over to our city reporter.
Okay.
Because this is her area of expertise, but I can give you, as I'm walking, an example. We have a public records request in place right now. And in the room, just to figure out where the records were, who was gonna do it, we had city reporter, the city manager, the assistant city manager, the planning manager, the works director, and the IT director, because it is an extremely large public records request. We couldn't charge for any of that hour, Myra? So,
okay.
Yeah. So my question is, how much of our legal time and staff time, so how much staff time / lawyer time is around public records requests?
It depends. Some of the record requests are pretty easy. It's just write a report and send it out type of thing. It's the ones that require us looking at a lot of documents or reviewing a lot of emails. And then if there's questions about legality or redactions, some of those have to go to the attorney. So it really depends on the request.
and I will say we had another situation where we tried to save the person money by having me do it. So they didn't get those outside. They just got my hourly rate, which is less, and they complained. So now they're all going to outside counsel because we don't want anyone else to complain. They got, a cheaper rate.
Okay. So do we have a cost? I didn't see it in here. Maybe I'm just not great at reading budgets, but do we have a cost of how much we're responding to public records?
We don't, that's probably a really good thing to put down on our list to start
Yeah.
tracking. Again, because we did have, and then we had to have another meeting just this morning on that same public records request, and there were 4 of us, I think, and you're had.
So
Yeah,
I think that that's another thing that we need to think about as a council. The attorney will protect our staff from making a mistake. And public records request mistakes are very costly in the state. And B, prevent the weaponization of public records requests, which I feel like has been happening. And so bringing an in-house attorney will save the city money when responding, but also will protect our staff who are trying the best they can to respond. And may not have the expertise to figure it out quickly around that. So I think that's another thing we should be considering, because I think it's a serious cost that the city is absorbing right now. And that means our taxpayers are absorbing, especially when these are requests from people who do not live in our community or pay taxes in the community. So thank you.
Sorry.
I appreciate us having this debate because it has changed my mind in the process of having it. And so I thank everybody for having these discussions. I think it's totally inappropriate that our city manager acted as a city attorney for us in any capacity whatsoever. So I think maybe bringing on a attorney to serve that singular purpose is probably a better idea. And then again, we'll be here next year and we can look at, see how the costs actually played out and check out things. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to mention this, but I'll go ahead and do it. And someone will yell at me anyway. So I just wanted the news release that came out from the city of Dallas, that the city of Dallas introduced a $5 facilities and equipment fee to its monthly utility bill. And they, at the same time, are reducing their stormwater fee by $5 per month. So there's no net increased cost to customers. Now, we were told at the last meeting that we cannot do that because we have loans that are dependent upon this, but maybe we could reconsider this huge water treatment plant and maybe not go forward with this idea right now. And it's not that we won't lose our water rights. We can still use our water rights. We just need to put in more wells. There are other options we can look at instead of combining this, and then we can still reduce our fees, and we can still save our libraries, we can still save our park, we can still save our museum. But I think these are things we should consider maybe looking at, because although I was told it was a bad idea, I don't think it is a bad idea. I think trying to offset these costs so that we can keep our library and museum and parks functioning, and people who already pay one of the highest water utility bills in our state can still afford to take this. And I know I say this every year. I'm wearing my dad's vest tonight. He died 2 years ago. I started to be on council because my dad stopped taking showers trying to reduce his water bill. And it never reduced because you can never reduce the base rate no matter how few showers you take. And it is something people talk about in our community, and it is something serious that people talk about. So it is something we should discuss further, I think, is trying to figure out what we can do to reduce these costs.
So, the water treatment plant is a policy determination by the council, not the budget committee. I'm not gonna comment on that. That is for council determination. As far as what Dallas does, that's Dallas. They have different funders, they have different loans, it's a completely different city. Public Works Director Fisher indicated the facts of the situation here in Independence. I'm not gonna comment on Dallas, nor would he. It's a different city. we're very different. That's all I got as far as an answer to your think question.
Bill?
I just wanted to say that my comment last week was really more in reference to it going directly against the policy that we cannot intermingle funds, you know, so reducing a fee in the water bill and then adding to the general fund is just an interfund transfer, and that's something that just we can't do by policy. That was my comment.
We're gonna get this done by the end of the night. So I appreciate Counselor Roden's comment about, you know, are there ways that we can reduce the fees to try to offset? And I think much to Jessica, your comment, like everyone here is intent on how do we balance this out if we can. I think we're finding that balancing is very difficult. I think we just want the numbers to be defensible. So if we can reduce our rates, they have to go through a separate process of working through that utility calculation of doing that versus a perception that council can just decide that we're going to set a rate arbitrarily. So I think there's a clear distinction between that I think is important to make sure that our community knows about.
I'm gonna jump in because we're doing the mic around and I do have something to say, I want to say. I do have the pleasure of being on this committee for a very long time. So I actually knew our previous public works director and we actually knew him pretty well. And one of his biggest complaints that he would have is that we wouldn't do the projects that he wanted to do. And he's like, because we're doing this in 10 to 15 years, we are gonna be in a really bad place. And that is where we are. We can't not do our programs anymore. Like the treatments has to be done, the things have to be dredged, the sewer lines have to be fixed. They can't not be pushed down the road anymore.
Recording microphones over here.
Okay, thank you. I just want to respond earlier to the comments made by Ms. Gore and Seiler. I just want to bring up that there's potential for bias in the people that are attending these sort of sessions. Typically, you're probably going to get older people and people who are more civically engaged, but that may not be fully representative of the community as a whole. And I just want to bring that point up for the counselors and for the rest of the budget committee, that it is very likely that the people you're hearing from who are in favor of these fees is potentially a smaller percentage of the population. And the reason I say that is because the levy failed. I think there's evidence for that. However, I know that a lot of people do support the parks, the museum, the library. Obviously, you all know that my mom ran the museum for 18 and a half years. I'm a huge fan of the museum. It was really sad to see it go. You all know that I fought for it last year. So there's nothing else I can really say about that. The other question I have is more for the city manager and for the council. I notice now that we're proposing 2 new fees towards the general fund along with the public safety fee. Correct? Community services.
Oh, it's one fee, community services.
It's just one fee?
One total fee, yes.
Okay, thank you. With the 2 fees, that does bring us up to 2 fees to fund the general fund. Do we have a policy set for how much of the general fund we plan on funding via fees? Is there some sort of limit in place? Or are we doing this piecemeal and slowly building up fees to fund the general fund?
Well, how do I even begin? Okay, I'm gonna let Amanda try and field this one, because I don't even know where to begin, but.
Okay, thank you.
It's difficult to put into words. So first, there are limited mechanisms that cities have to recover revenue to fund our operations, right? We have our property taxes, we have franchise fees, we have fees that we charge for services. And these type of fees are really the only other measure that we can implement outside of a levy. So looking at, our staff has done quite a bit of research going into both the committee and just internally when we were exploring options to sustain more services in our community. And we're actually a little late to the game. Across Oregon, most cities have fees of this type in place. Just looking at neighboring cities, I can tell you Albany has city services fees, Monmouth introduced their public safety fee. McMinnville has city service charges for library, parks, police, fire, and admin. Lebanon has city services fees for libraries, court, parks, PD. Salem has fees for their general fund. They list including PD, fire, planning, court, and internal services. Corvallis has city service fees. Westland, Sandy, Dallas, across the board. This is something that cities are becoming more and more reliant on as expenses are rising at a rate that we just cannot keep up with our limited revenue growth.
And then thanks to our assistant city manager, he reminded me that the question related to a policy relating to the fees. And we are doing this a little uniquely because truly this council believes in transparency and community engagement. So most of the time you will see a fee be a staff council, and it goes directly to the council and the council decides. What this council decided to do is ask the community by creating that community engagement, having the community members on the ad hoc committee. And then when the community members came to the council and said, we recommend a fee, the council said, well, let's let people have more time to talk about it. Let's do it through the budget committee so that you community members could talk and all those community members we've seen come up here could talk. So our process is incredibly transparent and it's very different from other cities. Normally, what you would see, as I said, is it would go to the council would vote on it. So we don't have a policy in place because we are doing it differently than everybody else to give our community more time to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
I just passed in my hands now, but you gotta turn it off, but I.
I think the other point I want to make about the fee and the considerations that were taken by the task force was we considered it a life support mechanism. There's other provisions that we recommended to the council, including transparency about the fee, including indexing of the fee, as well as review of the fee. What we're hoping is over the next 3 to 5 years, debt will continue to be reduced, which will ease and increase money into the general fund. Those properties will be sold, hopefully to industrial businesses who come fully onto our tax rolls. This is intended to be a stopgap to keep the services at the level they're at, which are by no means satisfactory. But it's a stopgap. It's a recommendation of if we want to keep those, this is what we have to do, with the hope these other long-term changes will play out and we don't spend our time relying on fees to fund our services. Recognizing though, as pointed out, we have very limited tools to fund the city. And the city is experiencing the same cost increases that we all are in households. Gas bills go up, power bills go up. Which police car would you like not to put gas in because of where we're at? These are the same considerations that we're all taking in. And the city is not a business. It delivers services. And so I just say that, and I appreciate what you're saying with regards to long-term use of fees. Hopefully this isn't long-term. Hopefully all the work that Sean is doing, that City Manager West is doing, that our mayor is doing to bring business here will pay off in spades, but it takes time. And we're hoping to buy ourselves time. I think that's how I would characterize the fee for now. And maybe we need more time. The council will review it. And they can look at what we have done and what we've accomplished and what has changed the landscape, and it can go down. Or frankly, and I know it must be an unpopular thing, it may need to go up. There's a lot of things I don't see changing in this environment anytime soon. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I just wanna let you know that we did take all of that into account, and this is kind of how we viewed this life support mechanism that hopefully will go away.
Thank you.
Evan. I know. Sorry. Okay.
You know what? Can't hear you publicly.
Yeah, elections are snapshots in time. And I think it's also important to note that just because someone voted no, doesn't mean they were opposed to these, like, you know, funds going to these organizations. And so, you know, I heard from a lot of people who thought that it should be a fee because then everyone pays it, not just property owners. I heard from people who wanted it to go to 2 out of the 3 places. I heard from people who thought it wasn't enough. I heard from all sorts of people when I was knocking on doors. So I think it's really dangerous to assume why people voted no. I heard from people who there were multiple bonds or levies on the ballot, so they were just mad at all, right? So like we shouldn't assume. And if you look at page 101, that's the debt. Look at some of those dates where it's coming off our rolls. That's important to keep in mind because part of the challenge with this whole puzzle is past decisions before all of us were on committing the city. And we don't want to go down that path too far because Monday morning quarterback is a dangerous thing. But what I'm saying is look at some of those dates. Some of them are coming up really quickly. So it's a stopgap. It's reasonable and responsible. It's tough to ask people to pay more, but hey, all of a sudden we're paying 3 times more for gas. We're paying more for food. We're doing it. So I have full belief in our community that folks will do what they gotta do because these are important services for our community.
And I, real quickly on the debt, I had wanted to point that out as well, so thank you, Committee Member Source. I just want to remind everyone also that last week, what we talked about with Director Fisher was he has budgeted to pay off the water fund debt, the 2 at the bottom of the page there on page 101, both the bond series and the water rights loan. Those are going away this next budget year. Additionally, that top item, the museum loan from Chase Bank, when we sell that property, that's gone as well. But if not, the maturity date is fiscal year 29/30. So we have quite a few that are dropping off very soon and many others that are in the very near future.
I just want to thank everybody for providing those explanations. I mean, it's been put very clearly here and I appreciate that. Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who came to speak because it is hard. I honestly think it's harder to come up here and speak in front of the budget committee than it is to be on it. So for everybody who comes down, thank you. And we do need to hear more voices, I think. So far we've had, I think, 7 people come over the last 2 weeks in favor of the fee in the parks. We haven't heard from anybody on the other side, and I know they exist. So, you know, people want themselves heard, come on down.
Or write a letter.
Okay.
Or write a letter.
Nathan and then Jessica. You can leave it on while you move it around. We don't need to just.
Actually, we could keep it on.
Yeah, just leave it on while.
It's a lot faster. Just one statement and then a question. You know, you mentioned bias, and the democratic process is nothing but actionable bias. That's the whole reason we do it, right? And anybody that wanted to come in and give any sort of input during the ad hoc committee or in these proceedings, whether or not their, you know, input was for or against, they were fully able or willing or had the opportunity to do so if they wanted to, and they didn't show up. So that's where we sit. And I wanted to ask if it was okay for everybody, we could move forward, if you go to the next presentation. We can
Yeah.
keep doing this for a long time, if we really want to.
Yes, we got Jessica and then I think that everyone that's wanted to speak that spoke, we'll do that and then we'll take a little break. Like a 10-minute break, and we'll go back into the next presentation or 7-minute break.
I'm feeling a little pressure. I don't want to open up a can of worms with my question here, but you mentioned, so I hadn't noticed that the loan that paid for the museum building matures 29/30, right? I feel like that's not very far away. Is there, I'm sure this has been considered, but we haven't talked about it in this committee, so I want to bring it out. Has there been consideration about keeping that property, and then are we allowed to rent it? Is there anything, like, is the city allowed to do stuff that actually brings in additional profit? Is there more benefit in holding on to that and then having more money in the future versus selling that property right now as a stopgap?
So we've had a lot of conversations around everything you can imagine. Everything is so up in the air. If it sells, we can utilize that funding to backstop our contingency. If it doesn't sell and it's paid off, do we consider keeping it? Maybe. We have to do a little bit more analysis depending on what happens. What I can say is we do not have an offer on it. And I think it has been one of the lesser. Yeah, most people have not been interested in it. So we have internally been talking about what that looks like. When we get a good sense of that, we'll take it to the council and they get to make the hard decisions.
Well, I think that's a good point that that sale is not part of this budget.
It is not a part of this budget.
Yeah. So, all right. We're going to take a 7-minute break and then we'll back to the next department. So. After.
Things should go much quicker because it's less contentious.
After, we'll reconvene. As far as it's Couldn't see Myra for a second. I was like, Myra, smiling. You can't do anything without Myra.
Very true.
Yes, I know. It's also where she. All right, we're back.
Yeah, we have that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're all back to order and we're gonna move on to the next presentation.
Right. So we are going to pick up in the general fund where we left off after City Manager West's presentation of the administration budget. We are going to move to the next, which is the Finance Department budget on page 33. There's not a whole lot in here. This should go relatively quickly. Again, we are anticipating increases in our utilities this year, so we have budgeted accordingly. Insurance, thankfully, insurance costs have gone down for the city overall. There are some funds where you may see slightly higher budgeted numbers, mostly lower. We have changed allocations as well, but overall we are saving quite a bit on insurance this year, so we're very happy about that. So office supplies, not a whole lot going on there. We did budget to replace one of my department's computers that is due for replacement. So you'll see that in the small tools and equipment line item that does not have budget previous years. We are also budgeted for increase in travel and training because I have all new staff and there is some training that we need to send them to this year. And lastly, the bigger cost, bigger change is that dues and membership budget line item, number 63220. We do have all of our IT and software subscriptions in there, but I have a couple of additional changes this year. One item we have is an increase in cost due to bringing on online payments on our website. So some of our staff have been working to implement application processes for permits, various fees, things that are now online and electronic, so they don't have to be filled out on paper and sent in or come in person. In conjunction with that, we are working with our vendor Express Bill Pay, who can also take any type of payment. It doesn't have to be utility specific. They can process different type of payments and build that into that web page. So our citizens will be able to pay permit fees in conjunction with their applications online and just streamline the process both for everyone in our community and for our staff. So I'm looking forward to that one. The other addition there is the implementation of an IVR system. So one thing that we are lacking here at the city is we do not have a mechanism for folks who like to call and make payments over the phone. Currently, we have staff that are processing payments over the phone, which is a security issue and a PCI compliance issue. That's a no-no. So again, we are working with one of our vendors who does offer that. It should be a seamless addition. It's somebody we already use and it will just work through our phone tree, just another option. You could press 4 to make a payment, something, and it takes them through an automated system that is secure and in compliance.
What's PCI?
Oh, gosh. Jason, do you remember what that stands for?
I don't remember the exact background, but essentially it is the client standard.
Yeah, it's, I can't remember the acronym. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, there's just rules.
Yeah, there are rules we have to follow. Yeah.
Alex?
I just had a question of why insurance went down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Like, wait, what?
What type of insurance?
Okay, there's on
Property and general liability.
property and
Yes.
general liability actually went down because of our rates. We've been really good at rates and keeping our costs down there, but benefits are not the same way.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Last year, we had talked about when, like for the permit application fees, when the city runs a credit card, we were not allowed to charge the credit card fees and the city was eating those fees. If we are going to be running those through Express Bill Pay, does that mean that Express Bill Pay can charge those fees to people that are paying through that method so that the city does not have to take on those fees?
So actually Express Bill Pay currently is our conduit. I will say there is an intermediary that processes those merchant card transactions, but we are charged fees regardless. You can't get away from it. There is no service you can use where you do not incur a cost for processing credit cards.
But then you
No,
can't charge.
and we can't charge or recover those,
Even through a third party.
no, even through a third party. Yeah.
Let's just leave it on.
Yeah. So, just a request, newsletter communication before we move to the robot. Cause I know there's gonna be people in our community mad about talking to a robot and not talking to a person. So I get that it's a compliance issue, totally understand. Please, for the love of God, communicate to our constituents around that. Thank you.
Absolutely, we will.
Just leave it right there.
On.
On.
Not in front of me, then.
Yeah. They've been keep Right.
All right, so before we move on to the next department budget, the health cost reminded me, I just wanna inform the budget committee of a couple of things that we're facing with personnel costs this year. So one thing you will see, well, it's incorporated into this budget for all salaries that are allocated across is a 2.9% cost of living increase. And that is keeping in line with our collective bargaining agreement. So we just did that for all employees across the board. The other big expense that we are incurring this year is we saw healthcare premiums increase by 14%, which is huge. That is a large cost. Unfortunately, both myself, City Manager West, and most importantly, our Human Resources Director did an awful lot of work reaching out, trying to find any other options. And unfortunately, any other bids that we received were quite a bit higher. So we are seeing this healthcare costs go through the roof, and it's another one of those that are just out of our control.
Jessica.
Sorry, I think that you just answered this, but just to clarify, so you looked at other options, are, what is the insurance carrier now, like, and I ask because, so I work for a government nonprofit and we just switched our rates to the PEB rates for, I think it's government and civil workers, I think, and ours decreased significantly, but if you're already on that, then there's not much you can do.
So currently we use CIS, which is it's community and county insurance. It's special insurance, and it is a trust for city and county governments that is negotiated.
It's a pool.
It's a pool.
It's a pool, so we get a reduced rate from a lot of other places, which is why when Amanda went to look for another rate, everything was much higher. Oh, sorry. Well, she wouldn't give it to me.
Does that include PEB? You looked at PEB? Because they are including a lot of cities in there.
Yeah, we have been looking at all of our options.
Oh, wow.
We heard.
We have been looking at all of their options right now. We've been using our agent and they've been looking at all of our options and they just have been coming in significantly higher than what even CIS was able to offer us because we do have specific regulations on our, because of we're being a city, we have to have extra coverages for retirees and that kind of thing. So it just depends. There's some other outliers we have to have as well.
Thank you. I should have left it with you. If there are any other questions for finance, the next department, if we move forward to the next page is human resources. So I will pass that over to Director Christensen.
Thanks. We're gonna come sit by Sean. I think you're supposed to. I could try just saying this is gonna be a no-brainer like Gerald does, but I'm not quite as effective, so we'll try this. All right, so human resource budget. This year's human resource budget reflects a balance between maintaining core operations and responding to increasing organizational demands. While the total budget has increased, it is not about expansion. It's about ensuring HR continues to effectively support hiring, employee recognition, and compliance responsibilities while we have with a very lean staff structure. The primary costs that are driving this are personnel and recruitment. Personnel costs reflect maintaining a minimal
but functional HR capacity. Recruitment continues to require significant investment due to the competitive labor market right now and the increase of efforts needed to attract quality candidates. With this investment, positions remain without this investment, positions remain vacant longer and can have a major impact across all departments. The addition of an in-house counsel is a meaningful improvement to the HR operations. It would allow for quicker access to legal guidance, more proactive issue management, and a greater consistency in decision-making across the organization. This support would help HR respond to in real time, which is really which is huge for me because I have to often contact and not get a response back for at least a day or two, along with address issues before many can address issues before they escalate. And it will reduce the overall organizational risk. It reduces reliance on outside legal services for routine matters, which help both efficiency and cost control. It also means that we're not pulling the city manager into day-to-day legal interpretations, so she can stay focused on bigger organizational priorities. And overall, this budget is focused on stability, risk management, and maintaining the essential HR functions. It ensures the organization can continue to recruit effectively, support employees, and navigate an incredibly complex legal and regulatory environment with HR. So if you have any questions, it's on page something.
I have a question, Amanda, and this is probably bigger than your department. Under the dues and memberships, did I hear you say that includes software subscriptions as well?
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
Jason.
Can we change the name of that line item then so that reflects that so we can,
So,
because that seems pretty high for dues and memberships.
I agree. Yeah, it's Jason's fault. Dana. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the question there on dues and memberships, because I was just looking here and roughly 20% of the budget's made up through contract services, dues and memberships, and recruiting. I just want to get some clarity for the community on what those entail. I mean, dues and memberships already been answered, but.
No, that's fine. I understand. So recruiting is what you were also looking at there. So with recruiting, it's going to be, we might have to go out for a recruiter with our larger, with our director positions, and with several people deciding to retire in the next couple months. I'm going to be needing to potentially look at using a recruiter. So that's where we see those costs go up.
And then contract services.
Contract services, that's gonna also be, that's mostly, you'll see it's my legal services. What would happen with that is for our negotiations, which we'll have open contracts this year as well. So it'll be for our legal services, mostly for like, if we didn't have in-house counsel for those specific ones.
Thank you.
Will the in-house counsel assist during a labor negotiation?
Yes, they would assist during that, and depending on their. Sorry,
I apologize. Yes, they would assist on that, and depending on their expertise, they could handle the entire thing.
So will that number go down?
Yes, that number would go down.
Okay. We're leaving it as a placeholder? Yes.
You will see legal services budgeted in various departments. We did reduce them significantly or eliminate them from some departments altogether this year. But there were certain departments where we thought, depending on the different legal expertise of whomever we were able to hire, if we were able to do so, there may be need for outside counsel for different niche expertise, so different subject matter expertise. So we did leave some budgeted in certain key areas in case it's needed. If our inside attorney can handle it, then we won't use it.
She answered my question. Good.
Say it.
And then before. Do you have?
No, I'm struggling with this.
I think we're good, right? We're good. Move on.
Oh.
I also do the janitorial department as my other side gig.
Okay.
Is it okay if we just skip to that really quick? It's
Yeah.
page 55. In this department, you're not gonna see a major increase either. It's about $2,000 for increased costs of materials and services to make sure we have enough toilet paper and all the things across the department. So again, with the rising cost of everything else, we're getting rising cost of everything in our janitorial department as well. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Everybody, I'm Jason Kistler, the IT director, apparently also the one solely responsible for dues and memberships. So on the IT budget, which is on page 39, the first thing that will stand out is we are now generating revenue. So that is from thank you, partnership with Monmouth. We took over IT services for them. In addition to Monmouth, we also took over IT services for the Oregon Association of Water Utilities. There's a couple other agencies that are also interested in getting IT services from us, so we'll continue to look at that and staffing levels and what we can do with it. The other thing that you'll see that changes is in personnel services. You'll see that that increases. That's mainly longevity. All of those increases are covered by the revenue that the IT department is generating, so there's no effect on the general fund for that. Moving down the budget, there are some small increases mainly on things that have already been covered previously: utilities, natural gas, garbage, all that. Prices have gone up a little bit. You will see a $5,000 increase in small tools and equipment. That's for a network infrastructure upgrade project. That's one of those that we've put off for many years. We'd like to get ahead of it, which leads me into the last one. We now also have a capital reserve fund for a new server. I know I've come to these meetings quite a few times and told you all about how long that we put off upgrading this server and that it could die at any moment. Well, this year it did. The only thing that saved us was that partnership with Monmouth. They actually loaned us a server that they had. Otherwise, we probably would have been down for weeks waiting on a new server to get in. So right.
What did it cost us, Jason?
So originally that server was about $7,000 due to component increases, supply chain issues, thank you AI, and tariffs. That same server now is $35,000 used. So it's gone up insanely much. So yeah, currently we are running on borrowed equipment. Getting that new server in will have us up to date with that. There. Yeah, those are the main items. Do you have any questions?
Just get megaphones. Just a quick question. Is it costing us money to borrow that equipment?
No, Monmouth is actually letting us borrow it right now. If we keep using it, so right now it's on an evaluation license that we're able to use that will last us until the beginning of the new fiscal year. If we go beyond that, then we'll have to spend thousands of dollars to properly license the server. But as far as the hardware itself that Monmouth loaned us, they're doing that free of charge. I would suggest against it. It is a very old server, and there's a reason that they weren't using it, is that they should not be using it anymore. So it's already on borrowed time, which kind of makes me nervous.
I was just gonna ask if you can give any feedback on how that partnership is going with Monmouth.
It has been fantastic. It has helped me out tremendously. We hired a full-time position for that. And so we cover each other. For instance, if I go on vacation, Derek will cover me. If he goes on vacation, I cover him. You know, I know some people think like, well, if you've added another city and only added one more person, then how does that make things easier? It's hard to explain, but basically having two people makes a bigger difference than it looks like. The biggest problem that I was running into is that I kept getting stuck into spots where I needed to be in two places at once. And so simply having another person that can be somewhere else has really, really freed me up. We were very fortunate in hiring Derek. He's highly skilled. He's got a great personality. He's a people person. Monmouth can't say enough good things about the service that they've received. I guess you kind of relate it to this attorney discussion that we're having. They outsourced their IT. Everybody hated it and was miserable. Response times were terrible. Now we have full-time dedicated IT that picks up the phone, that answers calls, answers emails.
Question about the birds, osprey.
Have sound now.
Yeah. It has sound, and it's awesome. Did donations cover the expense for adding sound?
Yeah, so the donations have been great on the Osprey Nest. They covered all the costs, including parts, labor, hiring a contractor to add that sound. It's also, there's been enough donations to cover all the software and ongoing costs of the bird nest camera for the next 2 years.
So I just want to give you all kudos for that, because I think it's a great addition. And it's really interesting. There's like a whole community who talks about said birds.
They are passionate.
Including a couple, maybe couch experts about osprey. It's kind of fun to watch the conversation. So
Indie
good job,
Ospreys
check
on
it out.
Facebook is the group.
Thanks.
Thank you. As an absolute nerd, I find IT very important. And this is more of a statement to the committee here. I typically, prior to joining the committee, would watch all the council meetings and budget meetings on YouTube, and that was a serious concern of mine. I'm glad we have microphones now, you can actually hear us. I don't know if it's possible in some way to incorporate some additional funding to increase the ability for us to reach out to community members via YouTube and things like that. Improving the camera equipment or improving the microphones or something like that. I don't know if we have a mechanism where we can increase the budget for something like that, but if we could, I think it'd be very valuable in terms of transparency for the community to be able to more easily hear us.
Wanna talk about that?
Sure. And we have started to look into that. Our grant writer, Marshall and Sean, have actually been looking for grants specifically for that. There's also some other funding avenues that we can use. There's PEG fees that we can use. So yeah, we've looked at that. To do a proper council chamber setup, where you've got the cameras that follow people that talk and it looks professional, that's about an $80,000 to $100,000 project. So it's very expensive. There are obviously other options than the Cadillac option that we can do, but still things are expensive. Mics that we're talking on are $500 a piece. So we definitely see the shortcomings of what we got, but it's kind of been trying to make it work and with as little as we've got. But I mean, from my perspective, I totally agree with you. There's much room for improvement. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, I think that's me coming up next here. Hello, everybody. Sean Irvine, Assistant City Manager, talking about Economic Development Department. Really pretty straightforward. Sorry, page 41 is where the actual numbers are. It's as you'll see, is pretty much pretty similar straight across the board. The one thing I'll really call out is the professional services other. You'll recall last budget cycle, you all wanted to allocate some money for essentially to make sure that we could actually try to grow our way out of this, which I really appreciated. That was $60,000 over 2 years towards industrial recruitment. So you see that 30,000 this current year expected to be expended, and then an additional 30 next year for that. That work is underway. And yeah, hopefully it will bear fruit. I think we've got a good strategy, and I'm looking forward to really playing it out. Other than that, like I say, I think the numbers are really close to similar, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How are those funds being used that we allocated last year?
Yeah, so we've contracted with Sedcor, which is the Regional Economic Development Organization for the Mid-Valley. They cover Polk, Marion, and Yamhill County. What we're doing is we're taking kind of a phased approach where first we're doing an industrial land readiness assessment because you can recruit all the industry you want, but if there's nowhere they would actually want to locate, then there's no point. So we're essentially looking specifically at all our various industrial properties, both with buildings and without, cataloging utility capacity, kind of what's available. Does it have a wetland delineation? Does it have a power study? And then also reaching out to the actual property owners to say, hey, what are your plans? What are you looking to do? What are your interests? And then once we have that, we're going to start reaching out to actual, kind of somewhat simultaneously be talking to businesses as well, both in the community and in the region about supply chains, because we're looking in terms of recruitment. It's, it's hard for a community like Independence to just sort of say, hey, random business in New Jersey, come here. So the approach we're really looking to take is, with especially Sedcor's knowledge of the Mid-Valley regional economy and the businesses that are there, we want to look at the supply chains for those businesses. Okay, we've got a bunch of food processors, maybe we need a belt manufacturer that they all, work with to, for their equipment, or, refrigeration equipment, supplier, or, just kind of where are those companies within the supply chain that, these are questions that we'll be asking them is, hey, who do you work with currently? Who do you wish was closer to you? Who would really help you if they were closer? And so then those are the ones that we're going to then target to say, look, you've got 6 different businesses in the area that, they're your sort of potential customers, alongside one that is your customer. You should think about, setting up an operation out here. That's sort of the short version of how we're going to approach this.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in for 2 seconds? Yeah, the other thing I'll add is that I think part of the preparation that we're doing is preparing. So the prosperity is on everyone's mind in Oregon right now. And so presumably some of the, there'll be some state programs that will become available. And so if we can have our ducks in a row, you can run with it from there.
Yeah, and so that thank you for the reminder prompt. So part of the purpose behind this industrial land readiness assessment is we will come out with a list of, hey, this is our most ready property, but it lacks a wetland delineation. This is our second most, but it needs, 1,000 feet of sewer and water infrastructure extended to it. Business Oregon, we're hearing, is going to be opening up a grant program for industrial land readiness. And so then if we have this assessment, we can then very easily go to them and say, look, we've done the work and this is our top priority, and here's the types of businesses we're looking to attract with it.
Thank you both.
We just want to do T&E if there's any more questions.
Sure.
Yeah, turn-ons would be great.
I don't know what page that's on.
It's that one.
And skip to tourism and events. Actually, let's go to the Economic Development Loan Fund.
Okay.
Because that's also new. That is page 85. That's where that one is. And this one, should be pretty quick. So you'll probably recall, last budget cycle, we essentially decided to sweep the Economic Development Loan Fund into the general fund to help stabilize reserves. That was where that 60,000 came from for the industrial recruitment effort. So the loan fund is still generating revenue because it has loans that are out there that are being repaid, and so you'll see there are sources. So there's money coming in, but essentially we've just transferred that money back out as per the decision that was made last time. Questions? All right, let's see if we can find the next page. 86, 87. 87 is where the numbers are in the tourism and events fund. All right, so this one actually has a fair bit of stuff going on. First off, I'll point out lodging tax and the sources. That seems to be trending up, but we're still trying to be conservative about our projections. So we're expecting to end this year at you'll see we're halfway through. We're at 152,000 in collections, you know, it'd be natural to say, let's double that for end of year. We're gonna say, no, we're gonna say 240. Just to be on the safe side, and projected for next year is 250. So hopefully we're being conservative with this, you know, it will end up with some excess. Next thing to point out is the Independence Day's transition. This is, you know, we have successfully handed that event off to the Friends of Community Parks. That seems to be going very well. And they've got a great presence online. I'll give them a quick plug, but please check them out. But I think the event is going to continue. It's kind of all the same people working on it, so it should continue as normal. But that's where we're not projecting any revenue. We're not going to be projecting any expenses for next year for Independence Days. Big change is summer series. So Courtney's gone, and so several things with this. First off, we're kind of ran in the expenses for this year are going to end up coming in higher. This is because we're kind of new situation. Two of the bands have asked for deposits. They want half the money up front. Previously, we just handed them a check after the performance was done. These are our two biggest headliners for this summer. And they would not commit without it. So gonna have to had to put about $10,000 extra into this fiscal year for those deposits. You know, and then costs are continuing to go up. Our sound guy, you know, is you know, we're trying to keep him. He was good, and so we've signed him to a longer term contract, but he needs to continue, you know, being able to cover his investment. The you know, big issue is, you know, frankly, my time working on the summer series. This event with the creation of the $5 fee. I think I told you the last couple of years, it's essentially self-sustaining without counting staff time. So the time that we've put into it, it does actually cover the temporary summer help that we use to actually do setup and takedown and some of those kind of things. But it's really hard for me to organize this, to work on it. And so what we're proposing in this budget is actually to fund a part-time position to work on events for the city, primarily summer series, and then the off-season, some additional events that can be kind of a combination community and sort of, you know, economic support events. And then we want this event to really be sustainable. As I say, costs are continuing to go up, and, you know, just sort of looking forward, that $5 fee is not going to be enough, even not counting our staff time. And so what we're looking to do is do an increase for admissions to $10. That would cover both the staff position that we're proposing, and would give us a cushion on bands, on sound, on porta potties, on, you know, security, on all of those things. We don't propose this lightly. One of the things we're working on right now is with the online, you know, purchasing. We'd like to transition this to where you can actually buy tickets ahead of time. And if you buy ahead of time, we want to offer a discount for, you know, for $8 to offer, you know, basically create some kind of more affordable option and just kind of, you know, improve the process. And so that's something we're working on right now internally with Ashley. But yeah, that's I think the big change that you're probably seeing in the numbers in this budget, both in terms of revenue, proposed revenues and expenses. The other thing I'll point out is with Glow. This current fiscal year, you'll see we're actually proposing, or we're saying that year end is actually going to be twice what was budgeted, and that was actually because we didn't pay them last year. So understandably, they wanted to be made whole, and so we did. So that's the difference with that number there. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I expect there probably will be some.
Okay, do we have someone in mind to take that position?
What we would like to do is actually fund a portion of Amy's salary. She's experienced with events. Amy from the museum, she's experienced with events, and I think can do a good job kind of taking on this role.
Doesn't she already have a full-time job?
Well, yes, but this would be a way to kind of transition some of her salary into into a different role, take some of the load off the general fund, and still have her, kind of doing things that are helping out the downtown.
My second question is, and this is somewhat self-centered. It's now gonna cost me $50 to bring me and my kids to the park. Have you guys considered maybe a summer pass or something like that, or family pass or something like that to offset costs?
Yes, that is something I wanna look at, that we are looking at. We're trying to, I wanna make sure we've got the basic ticket selling first, and then my hope is to be able to offer packages of some type.
We had talked about season passes.
Yeah, season pass, like you buy all 6 for a discount, or family passes, that type of a thing. I think, honestly, we could also potentially look at upping the age for kids get in free, I think it's 10 right now, we could do 12 or 13, something like that, and probably wouldn't help you, but.
Hold on me. Hand it over to Evan, please.
Transit and lodging taxes. The legislature increased our ability to charge transit and lodging taxes. And my understanding is part of that is for economic development and tourism, right? So what are we doing with those increased funds once we realize them? And is that a revenue source that we can think about to help absorb some of these costs so we're not passing more on to the folks in Independence?
So I think my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they didn't necessarily allow us to. We have always been able to increase the lodging tax if we wanted to. What they essentially allowed was there was sort of a 70-30 split where, but our lodging tax was actually grandfathered in. So we were already able to put that lodging tax sort of towards whatever we wanted to.
And we did.
Yeah, and we have, we already are, kind of,
Thank you, prior independent city council, for that decision.
Thank you very much.
Right, Tina?
It's 45. How many more departments do we have? How many more departments do we have?
This is my first one last year, so I don't get to do that again. Florentino Bañuelos, Chief of Police, and we are on page 45 for our numbers. And most of the increases that you'll see there are going to be related to intergovernmental agreements and contracts that we are currently engaged in. The contracts with Axon, for example, we're in year 3 in one, and year 4 in another, like 5. We'll get a chance to reassess those contracts in the next year or 2 to see if we really need to continue with those things. But for the most part, we really do need to continue with those contracts that provide services for body cameras, digital evidence storage, dash cameras, and the like. For the most part, you'll notice other increases are pretty modest. Other than probably a big bump here in an area that we'd like to explore. So currently we're in a trial with Axon to provide translation services through our body cameras, ability to translate into 50 different languages. The early reports from our staff are that it works really well for things like traffic stops and other minor interactions. Things like criminal investigations will still need for the most part, our 4 fully bilingual officers to investigate those matters when needed. And I guess I forgot to thank everybody here first off for the decisions that you all made. You really put us in a good position. Last year, our goal was to recruit and retain. This time last year, I think we were working with 11 officers that were available to us. due to injuries and leave and things of that sort. Through the course of the year, we were able to recruit 2 lateral officers. When we are able to successfully do that, we're able to put people on the road a whole lot faster. Had we not been able to do that, we'd probably still have 1 person in the academy and another still going through training. Now we're still 1 person down, but in a much better position this year than last year. Last year, we spent much of the year really just being reactive and responding. This year, we're looking forward to being able to strategize better and work with our community partners and our community members in identifying problems and solving those problems, rather than just continuing to respond to the same thing over and over again, right? And one of along with the translation service provided through the Axon body camera, we're looking at ways to leverage our limited resources to many of the phone calls or requests that we get required that we be out in the field or that we be present and available. Something that we really hadn't been able to do in 2025 quite as well as we would like. So again, moving forward, we'd like to be more available to the community and be more responsive, again, in identifying and taking creative approaches to problem solving and focusing more on livability issues as opposed to only responding to crime. So again, along with the translation services, we're looking at ways to leverage through technology a way to get our officers out of the office and out into the field. Much of the time that we spend in the office is documentation, more and more documentation, it seems. And so there are ways to assist us with that documentation through technology so that we can be more available to be present for the community. Most of the other modest increases are really just a reflection of rising costs for materials. We have to provide the tools and equipment and the uniforms to our officers in order for them to be able to do their job. And I wanted to take credit for the reduction in insurance because we worked really hard on that last year. We worked along with CIS to they came into our department and did a full assessment on our business, the way we conduct business. And we wanted to ensure that we were engaging in the best practices. Again, it took a lot of work. We scored a 100 on that assessment. We had to make some modifications to some of the things that we do, incorporating modernized ways of tracking certain things, like complaints and uses of force. You know, we're in a place where we're still a very small agency, still a small community, but we're being asked to provide you know, the same level of documentation as much larger agencies. Every legislative session, there are more and more requirements for the police. You guys may not see it as much as we do, but we certainly, it seems as the last few legislative sessions have focused on police and police practices. So that doesn't get funded, and then we have to do that internally. So again, definitely appreciate the work that you guys have been putting in to allow us to do our job. The goal is to do it better always. Responding and reacting is always going to be a part of policing, but we'd like to be more proactive and not just on traffic stops to reduce traffic crashes and improve traffic safety, but being able to problem solve. So, questions on specific lines here? Thank you. I'm sorry I have so many questions tonight. I know I'm kind of dragging them on. I'll try to be brief here. Thank you for your service and thank you for working for the community. I appreciate that. I noticed that the budget increased about $1 million between last year and this year. Do we foresee another increase coming over the next 5 to 10 years? And if so, do we have an idea of ballpark how much? And I believe Finance Director Carrie explained the increase in benefits, wages as well. And that's part of the reason that we're trying to leverage technology as best we can. We know that the reality is we're not going to get an influx of personnel, right? So we're going to try to do the best that we can, assess the systems that we have in place to make the best use of our resources. So no, I don't have an estimate. We try to forecast as best we can, but no, it's going to be dependent on the growth of our community, along with, again, the legislative requirements that come our way.
Do we intend to hire more officers at this time?
Not anytime soon.
Okay, and
I'm sorry, just the one that we're down. I mentioned earlier that we're still down one officer. So just the one.
does the police department in town handle the flock cameras?
We don't have flood cameras.
We don't?
Yeah.
What sort of cameras do we have?
They are ALPR cameras and is a Verkada system. Okay, that is what it is.
Is the data managed in the city or is it held outside the city?
It's internal.
Okay, thank you. Oh, last question, sorry. Do we foresee the need for another public safety fee to cover the increased costs of the police department?
Well, we reduced the public safety fee now, right?
Yes, at this time.
In that direction, correct. I would hope not. We'll do the best that we can. We'll reassess all the systems that we have in place always, and make the best use of our limited resources for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Real quickly, I just wanted to add on to Chief Banuelos's responses, just to clarify. So while the estimated year-end budget was 3.5 million for the police department and the current proposed budget is 4.5, you look, the adopted budget last year was 4.156. So it's actually it's less than a $400,000 increase. And again, we do budget to leave room for these increased costs that we're anticipating this year, although we try our best to not expend that full amount. So I do anticipate that we will come in lower.
And you explain why we've done the difference, why we saved so much.
Sorry, interrupting.
So, as Amanda noted, we had budgeted 4.1 million, but we spent 3.5. Part of that is vacancy savings. So Tino didn't have enough officers, and so that's a vacancy savings. And that's also why it looks so different.
It was taking me a minute. I was trying to find, yes, the word. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we were short-staffed last year, which is a large part of that. Also, we do have budgeted revenue for a public safety fee. Last year, we forecast 816,000, which did help to stabilize and shore up the police fund, and it did help us to add those additional positions. This year it is budgeted to decrease to $10 effective July 1st. And so we are budgeting 480,000 forecast in revenue. So it has reduced, but is still helping to sustain our police department. And that is something we will be reviewing annually with council. We will review the inflation, the costs, how we're doing, and seeing if we need to eliminate or reduce.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions about the fee. I think a couple of them you just touched on. My question is, what did that fee go towards? So officer hires, retention, training, because I'm curious, because I too have been here for 8 years and we have long talked about the lack of officers in our police department compared to some national standards and other data. And so I'm curious, and I think you just said you're not interested, we're not going to be hiring more. So I'm trying to write this here, like we need more officers. We hired 2 in a lateral and we have 1 you're still hiring. And now we're decreasing the fee. Kind of how are we going to get to that magic number of having a sufficient number of officers relative to 2026 standards?
So what I didn't include was that we had some retirements last year. So thank you for bringing that up. So some of those, we had 2 laterals and 1 recruit hired last year to replace some of the vacancies through
that came through retirement. So that was really just catching up. Last year was essentially catching back up. And the addition of that 16th officer for our agency, because of increases in wages, salary, and benefits. I guess we didn't see a dramatic increase, but it really stabilized our department, which is really a part of our recruiting approach. When we have qualified lateral applicants, they feel like they need to see that stability within the organization, that they're not going to be on the chopping block as soon as they come over.
I still have it. What number of officers do you want to be at? That's really my question.
In order to provide the best service, best possible service, an additional officer would be amazing.
In addition to the one we're hiring.
In addition to the one we're hiring.
What numbers?
18.
17. That would put us at 17 officers. Still
I'm gonna say an unpopular thing. Why did we decrease the public safety fee if we haven't met the capacity need? It's rhetorical, no one has to answer.
All right, fine, well. It was, when the public safety fee came in, it was quite a few years ago. And it was very unpopular. We wanted it to actually, originally staff had recommended, I think it's a $26 fee, if I remember correctly. And we were asked to reduce it. And so we reduced it to 21, and we were asked to reduce it again because it was so unpopular. This was the first fee we put in, and as Director Carey indicated, we came late to the game. So our community had no understanding of fees, no understanding of measures 5 and 50, no understanding of the pinch that we were in. And when all of a sudden it felt like to our community came at them and said, pay us this. And so really it was more a reflection of what the community was comfortable with and less a reflection of what we really need. And I probably, Finance Director Carey could run the numbers and you would hate what we came up with. But this was a reflection of what the community was comfortable with.
And I appreciate all of that, and I understand all of that. And I would suggest that the impact of not having the appropriate amount of officers, and I can point to a variety of services you provide, that I can reflect in my neighborhood and others that are not being delivered. And that if everybody understood that there were a variety of more than just nuisance issues occurring in neighborhoods regarding livability, that maybe that fee could go back up. I would suggest and say, I appreciate the pivoting in the next cycle to more community engagement. I am sorry, I'm not going to be living in this community to experience that. And I say that because in part we are leaving because of the failure of the city to address the livability issues in my neighborhood. So I appreciate hearing that there's a pivot coming. And I would be remiss in not sitting here and advocating for the next person who lives in my home to have services of the police they ask for. And so I would, if at some point in time there's an opportunity to consider a higher fee, I would be remiss in not leaving that behind for the next person.
Thank you.
Just use that one.
I'll send it back to you. I had a question on the communications 911 line item, just because it seems like it's up and down big time, and I'm just curious what that is like year over year. 63,160.
The 911 dispatch.
Yeah, it just number 180. We're on tracker 80. I'm curious what that.
Oh, probably just because we get to build for that late in the fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
6 estimated years that you go on budget next year.
Yeah.
We're not different.
Okay, fine. Our contract with WVCC, Warren and Valley Communication Center has definitely gone up. But as far as the year end, much of that billing comes towards the end of the year.
Okay, so it's that. Fair.
Court? Are we done? We're gonna move to court.
Any more questions about police? Good. Thank you very much.
So municipal court is pretty straightforward. We have our fines, fees, court fees, traffic fines. For revenue budgeted of 87,500. Not a whole lot has gone up. We have utilities, insurance in this fund, some office equipment. We still have contracts, professional services for legal, that is for a prosecuting attorney if needed, just to clarify. And then contract services for judge, those are higher this year because we are currently working on contract again, the black hole on Kenna's desk. She hasn't had time to get to updating the contract for our judge. We're supposed to increase his fee. So we're anticipating having to back pay that next year for what we haven't updated for the current fiscal year. Not a whole lot else. Are there any questions? Keep going.
All right, Fred. Fred, you're gonna go through this quick, yeah?
Yeah, so you will see my budget is increasing, but that is entirely associated with the proposed in-house lawyer. Any questions?
Well done, Fred.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
I honestly thought it was gonna be the long.
Excellent budget, Fred.
Did anybody have any questions for Fred though? Seriously? Okay.
Building department.
Yeah.
Page 53.
Page 53, building department. There is one item of interest, not a whole lot going on in this budget. Otherwise, of course, it's hard to anticipate building in the community, especially with increased costs going on. The one item that we do have, and this is something that has been kept quiet up until tonight, we are allowed to announce it. We are losing our building inspector
To retirement.
to retirement. Building official. He is retiring effective end of July. We have him the first month of the next fiscal year. And we are going to have to replace him. So the salary and benefits in this budget includes payout for retirement, all of those costs that go with that. We are budgeting to replace him. And then we have also budgeted $40,000 in professional services. We may have to contract with the state for a short time if we can't get someone hired, and also to conduct commercial inspections.
Yeah.
Depending on who we get.
Can I just make a comment? that
Yeah.
Like the hardest job to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
I just want to make a comment that just from my experience, this is one of the hardest positions to fill. Hardest to find contracted services for, hardest to everything, so.
A good one.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Very important.
So good luck with all that.
Okay.
And I would like to just say that Mr. Kennedy's awesome. He does a fabulous
Yeah.
job, just so great.
Yeah, I'll add a quick editorial that, I mean, he literally teaches building official class. He knows everything there is to know and is a super helpful. A lot of these folks that just sort of know, and he says, here's what you can do, and that is critical.
So it is difficult. It's going to be a difficult position to fill. This is what we're looking at. There is a program through the state. We will be working with them. The building official that they have right now used to be with Polk County and is very well respected. In addition, we have a next generation coming up. And I've already contacted the schools to see if there is someone, whether it's the next generation or maybe someone that is interested in moving to an agency that they can run of their own. So we are doing all the things behind the scenes. And if we do contract with the state, we'll be utilizing the funding that Director Carey talked about. And of course, wages will go down. If we do find someone, then that money will go down and the wages will maintain. So there will be some savings in here eventually. It'll just, I don't know where.
So question around permitting and legal assistance for building and planning. With the online system, so people can pay their fees ahead of time or online, they don't have to come in. And legal assistance here in building and in planning, how much faster are we going through that process? Because I've heard from folks that that's been a pinch point for us.
It is very much a pinch point. Sean, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I would just say that this is an opportunity to, you know, take a look at our entire permit processing system and really just try to identify where those slow points are and where we can speed things up. So yeah, it's actually top of mind. We were talking about it just, I think, last week.
Great, thank you.
Is this the last one? This is the last one. Let me get ready.
Yeah.
This is the last part.
The last department.
This is the last part.
I have little debt funds and then URA that are super brief. We're making our plans.
Okay, everybody. We're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Amy, museum director, the changes to the museum are incredibly minor, so not.
Page 58. Thank you.
So it's back.
And leave the mic. Yeah.
There you go, better.
The museum will still have one paid staff through the city, that's myself. We do have a paid intern, but she is paid through found monies, so that is not reflected in this budget. Everything else will remain pretty similar for the museum, and I did want to point out, oops, I just lost my page, but it doesn't matter. There is one line for our exhibit funds, which do reflect an over expenditure this year, and that doesn't reflect reality because of grant funds that have not been allocated yet, just so that you're. So the small amount of increase that you see that would affect the museum is for a small increase to our exhibit fund and a little bit of increase in our postage. And everything else is pretty much just reflective of normal changes that go up with dues and subscription fees and things.
Do we want any questions for Amy first, or both of us talk and then questions for the whole department?
I don't want to tell you good news, one good thing, because it's not reflected in this, but the museum was able to procure over about $24,000 in grants this fiscal year, and over 30,000 combined that with other found monies to help pay our interns. So there's a lot of work that goes on in the museum this year.
I'll do both of you, and then we'll have questions for both of you.
I can imagine. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So this year's budget is based on the fees being passed, obviously. Without the fee, we're in the same, if not a worse position than we currently are this year. So even with the fee, the museum building is still for sale. We still, without the fee, we would have zero in our budget for collections and programming at the library. And if and when staff are out, just so that everyone knows, that means that we are relying on other departments to step in. This past winter with sicknesses everywhere, we had the city clerk and our HR director and Myra cover lunches at the library. So that was the position we were in. So the speed brings us so that we can actually have people cover when staff are out. And one additional FTE is what we're asking for with that budget there. Yeah, so first of all, public thank you again to all of you for stepping in, but that's what that covers. Amanda, Finance Department Amanda, also mentioned the removal of our contract services for lawyers from our department, but that is something that the library actually uses. There are state statutes for library laws. I know everyone was riveted by the library board meeting this last Monday, but we are reviewing our policies and we're looking at internet compliance and hotspots and SIPIT, and that will not die in the black hole on your desk, but it is on your desk right now, so. We're going there. The main changes or the main things, obviously, you can see online 43,210 is where we get that income from the fee. The new other big changes, salary and wages reflect that new full-time position. Just the library itself, when we took the cuts 3 years ago in 22-23 budget year.
Every year.
Yeah, but when we took our first major cut and laid off library staff and lost Saturdays, before that we had 5.3 FTE. This will bring us up to 4.5. So we're still below what we were originally, but we're clawing our way back up. The budget brings back materials collections for books, audio visuals, and ebooks. Travel and training has gone up. Part of that is because I have been a part of, do we have an acronym, Jar? Part of a CARE project is what it's called for. It's a partnership between rural libraries and centers for independent living that is paying for me to attend a conference this fall, but I can't spend the money if we don't budget the money. They will pay us back, obviously, but I have to say that I'm going to spend it right. And then our professional membership costs are the other big change, but we talked about how that's all Jason, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are our main things, library side.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Just for transparency's sake, I know it was a very small amount of money that was donated, the voluntary donations for the museum and library. Is that reflected in here, or is that just in the general fund? But I just want to make sure that this is ending up here, because the intention for those donations was to support the library and parks and museum.
I'll slowly pass to Amanda, but I will say that we didn't budget for it, just like we didn't budget for it in the parks budget, because it's not something we can pay from.
But it was money that was already
Oh,
collected.
yeah, we got it.
They got it.
Okay.
Marilyn, we hand over to Marilyn.
How much assistance have you received in the last 25, 26 year from the Friends of the Library? Have they been contributing to purchasing books and other supplies?
Absolutely. So our, this year, our programming budget was zeroed out. So they've covered costs for all of summer reading last year, as well as our other main, our main programming events, and then every book purchase aside from grants and a found overspend from prior to my time. We had a credit with our main book vendor, and so we spent that. But other than that, I'm looking at our current president of our Friends, but I would say 10-20,000 this year.
I think 10 to 12.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that sounds.
I wouldn't expect you to have them from me, but yeah, at least 10 to 12,000 from them.
I think the same is true for the museum, that the Heritage Museum Society has funded some displays and things.
Our Heritage Museum Society has also, in a great part, funded our intern this year.
Anyone?
I have questions, Dave.
So the building downtown, the museum, we do not have that sale budgeted into this at all. So technically, we don't need to sell. It'd be nice to sell it, but it's not a need. Like, we don't have to. It's not we won't be able to pay the water bill if we don't sell it.
Now, remember, the reason, there's the city manager, attorney voice, as a matter of fact.
I
That's the
know.
combo. Now, remember, the reason that we're selling the buildings is they're one-time money, and the one-time money goes to rebuild our contingency. We don't use it for operations, we don't use it for programming. One-time money is only for one-time expenses, like rebuilding our contingency. And I know you asked that for the community, but you still got the CM attorney voice.
I know.
Evan.
Oh. I just want to give a shout out to Patrick and Amy for the amazing work they're doing. And there's been a lot of questions on social media around grants. And I just want to say, there'll be a question, I promise. But I just want to say, like, as someone on the Heritage Society, seeing what our museum team is doing and how scrappy they are to try to find every additional dollar, I just want the community to know that that's seriously happening. But can you talk a little bit about some of the grants that you've received this year, what we've applied for, what we're getting, and what we're doing with that?
Sure. So the difficult thing with grants is that they fund special projects, but they don't pay my salary. So that's maybe where some community confusion comes in. We're not going to fully fund the museum based on these, but we have received $8,000 from the Braemar Charitable Trust, and that funded our military exhibit update, as well as online repository of about between 800 and 900 local veterans with their personal information about their service. That was all thanks to that grant. We are in the middle of finishing up the award process with a Capital Foundation grant for $9,000, which will enable us to create a civic governance education exhibit that will go on display in the Capitol and in Independence, and then be because of the amount of the grant, we'll be able to use materials that will create a high quality exhibit that can then travel. So that could be a revenue source for us, which is really exciting. And then we've also received the Monmouth Independence Community Foundation has given us a grant to help us do research on our community fiesta and make sure that we retain the history of that event in our archive so it's not lost. And then very recently we got an America 250 grant, which was for just over $3,000. And that's going to help us with the community quilt project that we're doing to celebrate America 250. So any opportunity that comes into my inbox, I work with Marshall, put together plans, and we try. And again, and they help us do special projects, and they've helped us fund our intern. But they cover some of my hours, but they don't cover our general costs.
And there are grants that, so we went in together, for example, on grants that weren't funded that would also fund people and time. Just real quick, we've looked at grants, we've got partners as well. So just off the top of my head, we've got a couple things for materials from the Polk Marion Early Learning Hub, Marion Polk Early Learning Hub. They're also providing some programming for us for some early literacy stuff. And then community organizations have actually funded our databases this year and our participation in the coding program, which everyone I've talked about for forever and will again. But it is because of that we're able to do it. It's not funded through budget because, as you know, no money for collections this year.
Thank you.
I'll keep going quickly through the remaining funds. That is the last of our department funds. So page 89 is our grants fund. There's not a whole lot to talk about on this one. All of the large projects that we've received the both federal and state funding for, we're just not to the point where we're turning those in for reimbursement that's going to cross into the next fiscal year. So we are just budgeting for any unexpended resources and expenditures to move to next fiscal year. The next page. If we move forward to page 97, the general obligation bond fund, we collect property taxes for the levy or the bond that went out to levy. We have a general obligation bond. I'm sorry, it's getting late. I can't talk. We collect the tax revenue from that, and we are making our principal and interest payments as scheduled. Next page 99, the MINET Debt Service Fund. Again, we've had meetings with MINET, and I will be attending a budget meeting with them next week. They anticipate fully being able to make all debt service payments to the city as anticipated this year, and we are making payments as scheduled. And Special Assessments Fund, page 100. That's another one where we have some loans outstanding. We're still collecting some payments that are coming in. We have some principal and interest payments, so we're just budgeting for that incremental revenue that's trickling in. And I think we did it. We do need to open the URA.
Have a.
Recess.
Yeah, so we need to recess this one.
Well, you have two options.
Yeah, okay.
You can, someone can make a motion to approve this, or we can recess and go to a date certain. So this is a decision for the budget committee to make.
I move to recess to next Wednesday, May 6th, 6:30.
Okay, is there any other discussions about it? Evan? Or, I don't, someone over there.
Yeah, same time, we just.
My discussion is there really a reason to?
No.
Another meeting? Can we do it tonight?
I would only say that there was earlier comments made about the importance of giving people opportunity to comment and provide input, and now that we've gone through the budget. That would be my reason for moving on. I also would accept the motion to adopt budget tonight, so.
That's a fair comment. I'm honestly a little teeny bit frustrated tonight because I felt like we've had plenty of opportunity for people to come speak and people have chosen to speak and we maybe don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
My apologies.
It's getting late, we're getting tired, I'm sorry.
And we have a motion on the table.
Okay, then I'll just.
You're good.
I was just thinking, we've had, I feel like pretty sufficient opportunity for people to come in and speak. If they wanted to speak against these fees, they could have been here to do so, and I haven't heard that, at least in this forum yet, but again, that's just.
And I guess I would just like to give everyone in this room the opportunity to pause, breathe, not exhausted, and to kind of digest everything that has been discussed. Come back next week. If we do have folks that have comment, then we can legitimately say we have given them every opportunity to come and share after the full presentation of the entire budget. So I would like to, yes, I would be in favor of the motion made to come back next week and make a final decision.
Are there any other formal presentations or processes we need to go through, or will we just show up next week and just go straight into a motion?
So
After this.
As far as the city budget, no, when you recess, we will come back. We have nothing else to present. You will discuss, make a motion.
I wanna say something.
I feel that, like, as people presented their budgets, we discussed pretty lengthy with each person that was actually, with each department head. And I think that was a really good system to do it, because the person was there to listen to us. Now, when we come back next week, it'll just be us talking about the same things over again that we've already discussed. And it's also still fresh in our mind, so I just wanted to say that.
So. I think I might have evolved on this issue because. The community, it is on my pontificating, the community still has chance to come to council and provide opportunity. So it's not like we're cutting it off.
Yeah.
So maybe we should vote today. Something to think about, as your pontificate.
That is a very good point. Yeah, they can come back and go to the council, because that will be presented to council. So
I'll withdraw my motion.
is there,
Is that a question or a statement?
No, it's a statement. I'll withdraw.
Erin is withdrawing her motion
And the second?
in a second, and Evan is moving a second. So we do have some amendments that need, Jessica, sorry.
If we're not coming back, I just wanna throw this out as an idea. Last year, we moved some funds to economic development, that $60,000 that was allocated, that it seems is gonna do something really good for this community. And I know that that same fund that those monies originated from also has more money again this year. Is there some way that we can further use those funds to support the economic development of our community? And maybe that it warrants coming back next week to discuss. I know we're all pretty tired. I don't know if we're gonna vote. We're tired and wanna get this done, but I think that there's still conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that thought and, yeah, in that same spirit of, I mean, yeah, we do need to kind of grow our way out of this. I mean, there's always ways to spend money. But the budget. Yeah. that's
Talking to
why
my
stay
account.
Yeah, but so bottom line, I think we have a good plan in place for this recruitment strategy. I think it doesn't hurt to let it play out and then maybe have this conversation next year and say, you know what? We've figured these things out, and boy, if we had, you know, a halftime person or an additional contractor or whatever, we can do these things. Right now, I couldn't tell you with a straight face, like, yes, I absolutely need this much more money to do these things.
Thank you.
That way.
Are you saying touchdown or do you want
Yeah, I do just want to say, I would like to come back next week. I know it's a little bit tedious for everybody, but we covered a lot of information tonight. And this was the first meeting in which we discussed the fee in depth. This is the first opportunity somebody's going to get to hear it. And I did just want to give them an opportunity to come back in front of the budget committee, make any statements, and plus give us another week if we choose to go over what we saw tonight. And even if the next meeting is only 20 minutes, it would be nice to come back.
I'm echoing exactly what Dana is gonna say. I know we're tired of we're all in favor of less meetings, but I do think for the community to be able to come back, and if they don't come back, then I think we have our answer there, but being able to give people one more chance and giving us a chance to maybe just kind of let things settle, and if there are a few last remaining questions, I think from a transparency standpoint, that's a good way to go.
Put your motion back on the table.
I know. Second time, right again. I move to recess the budget committee until next Wednesday, May 6th at 6:30.
All right, it was Aaron and then Dana.
Any more discussion? No.
All right, vote.
Okay, committee member Forsler. Yes. Committee member Source.
Aye.
Committee member Rodas. Aye. Committee member Waber.
Aye.
Committee member Martin Willis.
Aye.
Committee member Morton. Aye. Committee member Ford. Aye. Chair Garrison. Aye. Committee member Porter. Aye. Committee member Sharman.
Aye.
Committee member Silent. Aye. Committee member Prasalas.
Aye.
Committee member Christensen.
Aye.
Committee member Carpenter.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Must ask, thank you.
So we are resetting at 9:00.
Yes, and we need to open the urban renewal agency, so I now call the meeting reconvened at 9:44. Before we begin, does any committee member wish to declare an actual potential conflict of interest? No, I don't think so. Yeah, roll call.
Committee member Forsler. Aye. Committee member Source.
Aye.
Here.
Present.
Committee member Waber.
Here.
Committee member Martin Willis. Here. Committee member Morton. Here. Committee member Ford. Here. Chair Garrison. Here. Committee member Porter. Here. Committee member Sharman.
Here.
Committee member Seiler. Here. Committee member Prasalas.
Here.
Committee member Christensen.
Here.
Committee member Person. Hartman.
Here.
All right.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, so now we'll go on, the next thing I have is the budget amendments. Or budget committee discussion. Continued.
No.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Urban Renewal Budget Committee.
Did you present it?
No, I need to.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So real quick presentation, the Urban Renewal Agency has two funds, the Urban Renewal Project Fund and the Urban Renewal Debt Service Fund. And the Urban Renewal Debt Fund pays bond series and the Business Oregon loan. The Urban Renewal Project Fund is paying interfund loans. Both are making their full debt service payments. The only change this year you will see in the Projects Fund at the top of the page is I budgeted for payments to be made to the Ethics Commission and audit fees and filing fees, which we neglected to do last year. That is the budget. Are there any questions?
Okay, at this point, you have the same two options with the URA, you can recess it or you can pass it.
Okay, so to approve this budget, if we are ready to approve the budget, I'll need three motions. Or that's budget. The motion will be ordered. Do you want me to read what the motion I need is?
Yes.
Okay, this is the motion I need. I move to approve the proposed Independence Urban Renewal District budget for fiscal year 2026-27 and to declare and certify the maximum tax increment that may be raised.
So moved.
Second.
Nathan said, Christensen. Okay. Discussion. Okay, vote.
Committee member Carpenter.
Aye.
Committee member Christensen.
Aye.
Committee member Prespa.
Aye.
Committee member Tyler. Aye. Committee member Sharman.
Aye.
Committee member Porter. Aye. Chair Garrison.
Aye.
Committee member Porter. Aye. Committee member Gordon.
Aye.
Committee member Martin Lewis.
Aye.
Committee member Boisvert.
Aye.
Committee member Roden. Aye. Committee member Source.
Aye.
And committee member Stormberg. Aye.
All right, thank you for approving that. So now I'll need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I heard out and then.
I'm good at talking now.
Nathan.
It was great.
That was the budget, was
Okay,
three.
Yeah, we all did.
Sorry,
Make sure.
the budget said three, this one only needs one.
Beautiful.
It's late.
I just wanna make sure.
All right, we'll see you all next week.
Objections?
Objections?
All aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. We'll see you next week.